so misunderstood. Only want to socialize. I don't think we should. Cause spooky, scary skeletons shout startling, shrilly screams. They sneak from their sarcophagus and just won't leave Spirits supernatural, wish I would solve it first. The bags of bones seem so unsafe, it's semi-serious. These scary skeletons are silly all the same. They smell as troubles floating by and drive you so insane. Sticks and stones will break you up. Seldom let you snooze. Spooky, scary skeletons will wake you with a boo.
Salutations, ghouls and freaks. Welcome to this podcast of the storm where the insane slashers, undead blood drinkers, and all around crooked beans convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the Mage of Madness, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everybody.
And hopefully our second co-host, the Nightmare of Freddy Krueger, Corrupt, will be joining us soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I'm your host / Scarecrow impersonator, the Brainstormer of Pop Culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
Well, it's October, which means by default I am in a fantastic mood. So can't speak much for our audience or the existence of them as yet. But
Right. So thank you for tuning in to our first October themed episode of the month, and there will be more to come. Before we delve into the macabre and despair, a word from our sponsor. We don't have one. A wink.
hopefully at some point in the future we will be brought to you by you, but at this early juncture that might be a little bit too much to hope for. Wink.
Right. So we have. It was actually kind of a fairly neutral week we had in finding articles, podcast of the storm, things that aren't really gonna get us angry or really stupid, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So first one we will be moving into is a top 10 list of 10 big stars you didn't know appeared in Tales from the Crypt by Screen Rant, by the way.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone who hasn't seen or doesn't know about Tales from the Crypt, what are you doing? Go and watch Tales from the Crypt. It's awesome.
I will look into it later, bud.
I was mostly chastising the audience, but I didn't realize what I was saying might apply to you. Shame
I
on me.
haven't seen a lot of things. I'm sure you realize that by now.
All the more reason for me to start setting up the Ludovico technique share.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
okay, I
get it.
realize I just made a Clockwork Orange reference, which
No,
is
I
another
got
thing
it.
you might not have seen.
I got it. I got it. I was just saying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. One of the biggest parts about HBO's Tales from the Crypt was tuning in to see what big stars were going to appear every episode. Whoa, 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 whoa. It was on HBO.
Yes,
Huh.
yes. It was the 90s equivalent of like prestige programming, which made it even more awesome that a incredibly pulpy classic golden age horror comic got a quasi prestige treatment on HBO,
Right.
and therefore could go as dark as it conceivably needed to.
Uh-huh. From 1989 to 1996, a procession of some of the biggest names in Hollywood joined the Crypt Keeper for a night of mischief and mayhem. Some of them were just making a name for themselves, while others were established Hollywood mainstays. By having prominent movie and television stars show up in Tales of the Crypt, it not only attracted a wider demographic of viewers, it also elevated the status of the series.
See, now on this point, slightly disagree. Tales from the Crypt needs no stinking elevation, thank you very much. Tales from the Crypt is elevated plenty by itself. What it did do to have all those stellar actors and whatnot involved was it actualized the awesomeness that was already inherent in the Tales from the Crypt. Thank you very fucking much.
Right. Okay. By having prominent movie and television. Oh, wait, I read that. And allowed its material to be given the star treatment with a variety of nuanced performances. They not only starred in it, but often contributed behind the scenes by producing or even directing episodes they found particularly interesting.
They did.
Neat. Read on below to see the 10 biggest stars you had no idea appeared in Tales from the Crypt.
Well, sorry, Screen Rant, but because I am me and the supernatural aspects of geekdom are kind of my thing, you will be hard pressed to find one of these that I have not seen, but I will be extremely impressed if you do. Considering that I have all 7 seasons of Tales from the Crypt on DVD.
Number 10, Brad Pitt. Given that Interview with a Vampire would come out just 2 years after the episode of King of the Road premiered, it seems that the Phalexan-haired bad boy was already destined. Okay.
It means his hair resembles the color of flaxseed.
Okay. Was already destined to make his mark in the horror genre. In this episode, Brad Pitt plays a no-good drag racer intent on challenging the greatest of his cadre to a race.
Mm-hmm.
Iceman, the greatest racer that ever lived, turned his back on the pastime long ago and is now a local sheriff. Pitt's character goads him into one last race by kidnapping his daughter, which he has no choice but to agree to. But there can only be one King of the Road. There's no B. There's only one King of the Road.
Okay, Screen Rant, my dudes. Can you like learn to structure a sentence, please? This is the most banal, basic, easy content to produce, and you still fucked it up somehow. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Number 9, Tom Hanks. Well, they kind of already spoiled that when they had him in the title picture. So
yeah, clickbait's a bitch, but yeah.
Tom Hanks is one of the greatest actors of his and any generation thanks to his versatile range. Though he's known for more serious movies now, he got his start with farces like Bosom Buddies and Joe versus the Volcano.
Yes.
Okay. He appears in None But the Lonely Heart and is not in a huge role. He makes the most of his screen time as only Tom Hanks can. The episode follows a con man who marries wealthy widows and then kills them, absconding with their inheritance before he moves on to the next victim. Eventually, he gets the date of his dreams, who appears to be the very worst of them. Aside from his role in it, this one is also directed by Hanks.
Yes,
Neat.
indeed it was.
Demi
And
Moore.
It was a pretty good. It was a pretty good episode, actually. It wasn't the best episode of Tales from the Crypt. In fact, it's very hard to pick a best episode of Tales from the Crypt, but it was a pretty good episode. Well done, Mr. Hanks.
Mm-hmm. Demi Moore, number 8. In one of the better episodes of the second season, Demi Moore stars as a woman who wants a lifestyle of wealth and success, and she wants it now. She visits a medium who tells her that she's in luck. She'll meet a wealthy man who will die in a violent manner not long afterwards. She soon meets a complete Slav named Charlie who comes from an affluent family, prompting her to marry him in the hopes to acquire his riches and leaving her job as a secretary. He does meet a violent end, but where the mediums are concerned, prediction are always a matter of perspective. It co-stars Transparent lead Jeffrey Tambor.
Yes. No prizes for guessing how it ends. But feel free to guess anyway.
Christopher Reeve, number 7. Okay.
Yep.
Themed restaurants can be a tough sell, as Fred and Irma soon find out with their all-squid establishment. Fred's idea of a great daily special is squid on a stick. They try to come up with appetizing recipes, but eventually they have to face the fact that they'll have to shut down. That is, until a mysterious stranger arrives with a solution. Enter Christopher Reeve, yes, Superman, who has a recipe for the best steak you'll ever taste. Fred and Fred and Irma don't really care how he gets the meat, only that it sells. As you can imagine, the secret isn't only in the sauce. This episode also co-stars The Breakfast Club's Judd Nelson, who is right there in the background.
Mm-hmm. If you ever wanted to see Christopher Reeve as basically Sweeney Todd, and also kind of the devil, feel free to seek out that episode. I don't know why you would have that oddly specific fetish, but as per usual, the Crypt Keeper has you covered.
Yeah, give me. Okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger, number 6. Yeah, I remember seeing. This was years ago. I was just checking like the intros for Tales of the Crypt, and Arnold was in one of those. So, while technically not appearing in this episode of Tales from the Crypt, the Austrian Oak did produce it, and can be seen personally introducing it along with the Crypt Keeper. He utters one of the best puns as the Crypt Keeper struggles to arm curl a bone with 2 skulls like a barbell. You want to be a 90-pound corpse for the rest of your death? It's probably funnier when he says it.
It was infinitely funnier when Arnie said it, because this was 90s Arnold, who still had the like bodybuilder physique, so it was much funnier.
Mm-hmm. The episode called The Switch focuses on an elderly man who who is preoccupied with the effects of aging. Afraid to lose his beautiful young wife, he subscribes to a revolutionary treatment designed to halt the aging process. Fortunately, maintaining his new youthful appearance comes at a cost. It co-stars Kelly Preston. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Much like the Twilight Zone, every Tales from the Crypt has a little bit of a sort of self-aware twist on the end.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, Ewan McGregor. This one actually kind of does surprise me. Shortly before his starring roles in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and Moulin Rouge, Ewan McGregor appeared in the final season of Tales from the Crypt. This time, the anthology series crossed the pond to London, chronicling the criminal habits of a couple of petty robbers. In Cold War, Ewan McGregor plays Ford, part of a trio of robbers who botch a job. He makes it out with his girlfriend Cammy, but the friend Cutter isn't so lucky. They split soon after, and Cammy finds a new boo, Jimmy. Jealous of her new lover, Ford shoots Jimmy, only to find out a terrible secret they all have in common. Let me guess, Jimmy is Cutter?
You're close. I'm not gonna try and contrive out the logic of this one because this one's a little bit woo even for Tales from the Crypts.
Okay. Okay. Tim Curry, number 4. He's really got to be more in stuff these days.
Unfortunately, Mr. Curry's health is kind of failing, and last I knew of him, he was in a wheelchair.
Oh, never mind then. Shame. He's a really good actor.
He is the best part by default of pretty much every movie he's ever been in.
Yeah. I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Clue.
I think I saw Home Alone 2 first. Was the first place I saw him, and then of course I saw him many other places. And yes, his role as Wadsworth the butler in Clue is probably his best role. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Okay. The always entertaining Tim Curry provided plenty of thrills and chills in Death of Some Salesman, where he appeared as 3 different members of a hillbilly family. Like the best of the trope, there's something sinister about this family, but their salt of the earth charm is deceptively welcoming.
Mm-hmm. Once again, no prizes for guessing the twist here.
Yeah. When a salmon shows up,
Though I will say, hearing Tim Curry with a hillbilly accent, really freaking weird, even by Tim Curry standards.
okay. When a salesman shows up at the door, he believes he's found the perfect trio of suckers. He's eager to collect their inheritance, and he never assumes that they could be aware of his intentions. He also assumes they've never had a salesman at the door and have a very special way of dealing with them.
Hmm. Hmm. Uh,
Kyle Malkin Kyle Malcolm, I think that's how you say it.
mm-hmm.
Oh wait, I've seen this guy. Okay, it's just that I wasn't sure who that was.
Mm-hmm.
In an episode that consistently ranks high on fans' list of the best tales from the crypt, Kyle MacLachlan of Dune and Twin Peaks fame stars as a petty criminal who's just robbed a bank and is hoping to escape to the Mexican border. He faces just 2 problems: the Arizona desert and the copperlands dogging him across it. Eventually, he manages to kill his pursuer, but not before the officer can handcuff him to the crook and swallow the key. With the weight of the officer dragging him down like the weight of his nefarious actions, he's forced to brave the hazards of the desert, all while the vultures circle overhead, waiting for him to make one long move.
Mm-hmm.
Timothy Dalton. Number 2. The Werewolf Concerto is a divisive episode for fans. It has all the elements that make Tales from the Crypt a great series. Spooky setting at a remote country hotel, a group of strangers forced together by circumstances, and a supernatural element to the mystery they must solve.
Mm-hmm.
Starring Timothy Dalton while he was still playing James Bond, he's part of a group of boarders terrorized by a murderer in the countryside. As it turns out, his character is a werewolf hunter hired by the innkeeper. This may feel like a Scooby-Doo episode with cheap unmasking to some, but watch it for all the sly 007 references and the lovely Beverly D'Angelo National Lampoon Vacation series.
Yeah, I really would have preferred a more, actual werewolf, but that's probably unsurprising to most fans of our show. Don't
Yeah,
do the fake out supernatural element. Do the sincere supernatural element. Damn it.
yeah. All right, Kirk Douglas, number 1. I don't think I know who Kirk Douglas is, unfortunately.
He was kind of an old Hollywood actor. I'm not surprised you don't know him off the top of your head.
I feel bad that I don't.
He's one of those classic machismo types, kind of like Clint Eastwood or John Wayne or the like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yellow deals with a different sort of fear at its core, and is considered one of the most psychological episodes of the series. It begins in 1918 in France during World War One, where Lieutenant Eric Douglas has been on the front lines of continuous battle for weeks and begs his father, a prominent general, for a discharge. His father, played with daily grit by Kirk Douglas, and his father in real life, agrees to let him go to the rear of the company if he can lead a patrol across German lines to fix a communication line. When his son proves too cowardly, his father orders him to be given a court martial. Penalty is death by firing squad. And that is it for the. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I assumed that one would be relatively quick because I didn't have as much to say about those.
Yeah. So the other one is loading. Would you, Nolan, would you be willing to kind of give us some history on, kind of just pitch Tales of the Crypt to us?
Okay, so Tales from the Crypt, the series, is based on Tales from the Crypt, the comic book, which was very popular during the late 30s through the 50s in comics. Each issue was kind of an anthology, as told by the Crypt Keeper and a few other miscellaneous um, characters similar to him, as in there was a guy who specifically oversaw a mausoleum who was referred to as the Vault Keeper, and several other miscellaneous characters who aren't really worth mentioning as much. Um, the show, on the other hand, premiered on HBO in 1989. after having been shopped around to several networks, and finally being given a long shot chance by HBO. It was a surprisingly massive hit, and it continued on for a very, very long time. The most famous aspects of it are probably its theme tune and the redesign of the Crypt Keeper, which they actually made him look more skeletal and more sort of zombified, because while the Crypt Keeper was always sort of thought to be undead, given how he reveled in the concept of death in the comics, the show made it sort of solidly clear that he was a essentially zombie. He was the living dead, and it was his job to sort of preside over all the spooky shenanigans going on. As with the show, every Tales from the Crypt issue would usually start out with the Crypt Keeper setting up the story, and then later at the end of the story, it would be sort of spun by the Crypt Keeper, usually into a twist ending and a crypt or death or supernatural related pun. Interestingly, in the Tales from the Crypt series, usually the story would start in earnest after Kripke had done his thing, by showing a flash of the comic that it was allegedly supposed to be based on. I say allegedly because some of the time Tales from the Crypt told completely original stories and basically fabricated a comic version, which was hilarious. But obviously, the vast majority of them were based on issues or parts from the issues, and were expanded out to hour-long length, usually. Also, interestingly, Tales from the Crypt proper ended with 2 feature film versions of Tales from the Crypt. One was called Demon Knight, and one was called The Bordello of Blood. There was supposed to be a third one, but Bordello of Blood didn't do as well as they had hoped. So, which to me is absolute rubbish, because like Bordello of Blood is much better than Demon Knight, even though I think both are pretty amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So it is. A sec. Okay. So this is a CBR article. It's another top 10 list. Mostly, actually, pretty much all of these are lists we're covering for the first week of October.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to kind of ease ourselves in and avoid the horrifying cringe of Halloween.
Right.
Because people shitting on our favorite holiday might be terrible.
Yeah. Okay. So 10 best horror themed DC Comics stories.
I did a quick flip through of these, so I will be curious what CBR actually says about them, and how many times I'm going to have to angrily correct something, or wonder why something made it on the list in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. So with the month of October nearly here and the season of scares right around the corner, comic book fans around the world are eagerly awaiting new stories that will send shivers down their spines and scare them in the weeks to come. World of DC Comics is no stranger to the supernatural and things that go bump in the night. Between supernatural heroes like John Constantine and Satana to villains like the demon Neron, who nearly destroyed the Justice League in the DC universe, horror-based DC comic stories are a major staple. So here are the 10 best. Number 10.
I will be the judge of that. CBR, I will be the judge of that.
Yeah. Number 10, Young Monsters in Love.
This one I have not read, so good on you, CBR, for actually finding one that I hadn't read. But let's read the description and see if they fucked up somehow.
Starting off on a more lighthearted note, there was recently a horror-based comic book anthology from DC Comics called Young Monsters in Love, in which the monsters and horror-based characters of DC Universe explored romance the only way they knew how. From Frankenstein and his bride to Kurt Langstrom, aka Man-Bat, and his wife Francine, many stories were told in this anthology. One of the best, however, had to be Raven of the Teen Titans. With the other team members coupled up, she was left alone to help restless and lonely spirit haunting a family. Oh, I remember a few videos coming out about this. Didn't really check them out because I wasn't interested in it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bloodlines, number 9.
I don't recall liking Bloodlines very much, so I'm surprised to see this here.
Yeah, okay. If fans are looking for an alien monster vibe in a DC comic, then the classic crossover storyline, Bloodlines, is the one for them. The story involves a race of aliens who feed on the spinal fluid of people, which ends their lives in the process. Yeah, who wouldn't that kill?
Yeah, that's pretty kind of universally detrimental to any creature with a spine.
Yeah. Described as resembling the classic xenomorphs aliens from Ridley Scott's Alien franchise, creatures nearly destroyed the Justice League. Attaching to human hosts and draining them of their spinal fluid, the creatures would sometimes activate the metagene in some of their victims, granting them powers. This created an offshoot known as New Bloods.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't enjoy Bloodlines at all, and
Uh,
part of it was the stupid contrivance one-off characters created by this thing that happened.
mhm. I never heard of this, so I don't know. I'd be interested checking it out and like form my own opinion of it. Okay, so number 8, Day of Judgment.
Okay, that's another one I'm not as familiar with as I probably should be, so go for it.
Right. Okay. One of the most influential storylines in the horror genre for DC Comics has to be Day of Judgment. The story involved Etrigan the demon seeking to destroy his enemy and fellow demon Neuron.
Oh,
And
okay, this story. Okay, I forgot what it was called, but yeah,
mhm,
this one does deserve to be here. I will give you some props, uh, CBR.
yeah. And in doing so, bonded the Spectre Force to the King Angel Asmodel, Asmodel, making him all powerful.
And in the process caused one of the greatest fuck ups in the entirety of DC history. Namely, this I believe this one was a lead into the Day of Vengeance storyline, which is a storyline in which the Spectre goes crazy without a host and kind of decides to commit magic user genocide, which ultimately led to the death of Naboo, and also Kent Nielsen in the process, um, thereby ending what DC referred to as the Ninth Age of Magic.
Yeah. After freezing hell and releasing demons and magical villains like Enchantress, the staple heroes are defeated, and magical based characters like the Phantom, Stranger, Deadman, Satana, and Madame Xanadu form the Sentinels of Magic. Later, Hal Jordan wrests control of the Spectre Force away and becomes the new Spectre.
Yes, and through a process of plot contrivance, he ends up shacking up with a character called Calypso, losing the Spectre Force, and the Spectre, hostless, kind of goes off kilter because we find out that the humanity of the host is what keeps the Spectre from basically becoming a useless torrent of chaotic energy that destroys everything it touches.
Okay. Number 7, Dangerous Habits.
Ooh, I do love this storyline. Okay, proceed.
One of the most classic horror tales of DC Comics multiverse has to be Dangerous Habits. The storyline focuses on one of the most engaging supernatural heroes of the DC universe, John Constantine. Anything to say to that, Don? Or
I am in complete agreement with this so far. Dangerous Habits is pretty freaking awesome.
right? Okay. The con man and magical hero discovers he has lung cancer and goes about trying to save his soul.
And so I'm going to take over the sort of exposition of this. So he discovers that he has lung cancer. So what he does is he makes a deal with a demon. And rather than let his soul become the property of hell in the process, he makes a deal with another demon, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then another. And in the process, he has sold his soul 5 separate times to 5 separate demons, each of whom either are a lord of hell or work for a lord of hell. This being the case, hell cannot let him die, because if they let him die, he will essentially the property rights issue of who owns his soul and why will drive hell into a civil war. And so he essentially gets out of his cancer by having hell heal him gratis, because if he ever dies, hell will go into a civil war. It's one of Johnny's best moments, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it is a complete and utter fuck you, and it does lead to utter fucking of him later on. But as is usually the case with John Constantine, especially when he tries to get clever and smart and tries to get out of bad situations he finds himself in. But yeah, proceed.
Right. Okay. Along the way, he saves another friend of his who dies from having his soul sent to hell, and upon the eve of his death, tricks the lords of hell into each buying his soul and then curing his disease to prevent all-out war in hell.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how you're gonna feel when I say this, Dylan, because I feel like you're gonna give me the stare I usually give you. But
Okay.
But essentially, this is kind of a loosely based plot of the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie.
No.
I said loosely based.
Not really. I don't know where you're getting that.
Well, in the movie, if I remember, John has lung cancer and is trying to find a way to buy his way into heaven.
Yeah, but it's not very heavily based on Dangerous Habits at all.
I did say loosely based.
It's more based on the aftermath of the Newcastle storyline, because of course in the aftermath of the Newcastle storyline, because he accidentally damned a young girl's soul to hell, his soul got damned along with her, and so both for the sake of his own personal redemptive code and for the sake of hopefully saving his soul from hell, he embarks on more classical heroics in order to try and redeem himself. And as for John's many bouts with cancer, that's kind of a recurring theme because of the fact that Johnny is a heavy smoker. So I don't know if they based the Constantine movie on Dangerous Habits at all, but there's nothing specific to the Constantine movie that makes me think that that they based it on Dangerous Habits.
Okay. So number 6, Forever Evil, Blight.
Why is this here? More importantly, why the fuck is this here over Dangerous Habits? Because as I recall, this one was shit. Maybe I'm misremembering, but as I recall it, this one was shit.
Mm-hmm. One of the biggest horror-based stories in recent years was companion story to the Forever Evil storyline, titled Forever Evil, Blight. The story picks up after the events of the Trinity War, which saw the three various Justice Leagues attacked by the crime syndicate and nearly destroyed. And that is all that's there. Oh wait,
Because this
never mind. Constantine wakes in the House of Mystery, and together with Swamp Thing, Pandora, the Phantom Stranger, and others must fight the manifestation of evil itself, Blight. As they battle the entity, they must also find the scattered heroes of the three leagues and find a way to save them or else.
Yeah, this was right around the time that DC decided to start copying Marvel in their attempt to commit suicide. And unfortunately, this basically led to the destruction of all magic within the DC universe, more or less. The short outcome of this is apparently all magic in the DC universe is now tied to the Greek goddess Hecate, and the Lords of Order and Chaos are just Hyborian Age ghosts now. And the Lords of Order have decided that they themselves want to have a Day of Vengeance style storyline and delete all magic from the universe. I fucking hate this book. This book is shit. The only thing that's stopping me from reacting any more violently than this is it's only the beginning of where things went shit. It's not Witching Hour. Witching Hour is where it really just off and fucked.
Oh, and Corrupt is here. Hey,
Yeah.
Corrupt.
Hey, sorry about that. Took me forever to get my house shit together.
You're good. We haven't really done much. Just looking at some lists of Halloween-themed comics.
Ooh, what's like? What are some of the ones that were already got that y'all already went over anyway?
Forever Evil, Blight, Dangerous Habits, Day of Judgment.
X-Men, like the Matt Van Beyond villain Blight.
No.
Ah,
Yeah.
Bloodlines, Young Monsters and Love.
Yeah, on that note, catch him up while I reboot my phone because I'm having trouble hearing Corrupt, and I don't think it's on your end, Corrupt. I think it's on my end, so let me
all right.
fix
Because I
that
was
by
just having
rebooting.
issues with my phone or whatever with my phone earlier too.
Right. So, yeah, essentially we're looking at a CBR article, a top 10 list of horror-themed DC comics. And, well, we did cover them. We mostly we've had no problems with these. So, there were some that Dalton had problems with. I have not really read any of these, and Dalton is back.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, actually, corrupt question: have you read any of these?
Let me see.
Young Monsters in Love. I think that's the one that came out last year.
Let me see. Scroll to them real quick so I can see. One mine. Blood. Scroll through some of them if you wouldn't mind, so I can see.
Sure.
All right, Bloodlines. The Judgment. I've heard of some of these. Let me see. Dangerous Habits looks interesting. I've definitely heard of Forever Evil, but I've never gotten a chance to read it. Although I have wanted to read it actually.
Don't read it. It's shit.
Freezes Over. 5 freezes. Yeah, I've heard of Freezes Over.
Actually, we were just going to cover that. You popped in when we were about to cover number 5. So,
Alright.
number 5, Freezes Over. One of the most intimate and dark horror stories in recent years, of course, belongs to John Constantine once more. In the story Freezes Over, John finds himself stuck in a snowstorm in the United States and forced to find shelter inside of a salon with local patrons who are distrustful of the Englishman. That's fair. It's John Constantine, so.
Yeah, mistrusting John Constantine is very often the only way you remain alive at the end of the story. Because John is terrible at things.
Yeah.
That being said, I didn't think Freezes Over was that good, and I certainly didn't think it was as good as Dangerous Habits, which was actually a part of the original run of Hellblazer, whereas I believe Freezes Over didn't come out until either very, very late into the original Hellblazer run or very, very early in the New 52.
I didn't even know it was related to the Hellraiser run.
Like I'm trying to keep the eras of John Constantine straight in my head. There's been like 5 of them, and I'm trying to, because the best one is by default the Hellblazer run, but they rebooted him once in the New 52. Then they gave him another new storyline for when they rebooted the universe, but after New 52, but before Rebirth, they gave him a series, and then they gave him one for Rebirth as well for a little bit, and then they're just about to start another one with Sandman universe related shit. So yeah, I'm trying to think where one stopped and the other. I think this was later on in the original Hellblazer run, and it wasn't one of the best stories, but that might just be me.
When a man is found with an icicle in his chest and his life ended, distrust amongst the patron grows, and the local legend of a monster known as the Iceman looms overhead. John works to flesh out the one responsible for the heinous crimes. Number 4, Underworld Unleashed. I gotta be honest, I've never heard of any of these titles.
I don't know if I have heard of this one. I might just be blanking on the title again. Start reading the description, and maybe it'll jog my memory a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Same. I've heard of Forever Evil, and I've heard of, I think, another one, but for the most part, I've never heard of any of these.
Only like 2 of them so far have been actually worth reading from what I remember of them.
Underworld Unleashed. What is this art? Is this like a fan comic or something?
I'm pretty sure this was a recent book, which might be why I haven't heard of it.
It looks kind of like a 90s or something.
This coloring is terrible. Holy shit.
This would not have cut mustard in the 90s, I don't think. I might be wrong, and I might just have completely missed this entire storyline.
I don't think this would have cut it in the 90s either.
If Tales of Deals with the Devil are what truly frightens a soul, then DC Comics' very own story, Underworld Unleashed, is the tale for them. In this story, the heroes are faced with a powerful threat, Neron, the demon lord of hell. In this story, Abracadabra makes a deal to serve Neron in exchange for real magical powers instead of tech-based magical powers. He tricks 5 of Flash's rogues gallery to sell their souls to Neron in order to be remembered, but this costs them their lives as the explosions they set off create a pentagram unleashing Neron.
Okay, do I remember anything about this? This is a good question. See, before I had the fucking sleep issues that I currently have on and off, I had a really amazing memory, but now my memory is shit. So I am trying desperately to remember if I remember this one. It sounds vaguely familiar, but it also sounds like if I remember it at all, it's one of the ones I found extremely stupid.
It was in the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, it says Underworld Unleashed was a multi-title comic book crossover event released by DC Comics in 1995.
Why does it look so terrible?
Yeah, I don't know either. If I like I said, if I've ever read this one, it's one that I probably put down as soon as the whole it made a pentagram with 5 explosions thing happened.
Yeah, creators were Mark Waid and Howard Porter.
Okay, this explains more than it needs to.
Dalton is just disgusted by it all.
I'm just like, oh, this was Mark Waid. Never fucking mind. Everything makes sense again.
Everything.
Okay. Justice League: The Witching Hour. Number 3.
Fuck.
Okay, honestly, I misheard you, and I thought you said Justice League: The Witchy Hour. I was like, well, that's an interesting title for a comic.
Yeah. No. If I remember correctly, Witching Hour was another recent book that sucked. So I might be wrong, but yeah,
Is
Witching
that-
Hour sucked as well.
Is
I
that
don't-
Granny
I-
Goodness?
No, that's Wonder Woman.
I'm really
Why does
annoyed.
she look so
I-
old and fat.
I'm really annoyed that CBR is putting such shitty modern books above classics like Dangerous Habits, which is fucking amazing and one of John Constantine's best moments. It just what the fuck is this? What? Who was in charge of ranking these? I demand to know.
The writer of this article list, I guess, is Anthony Avina, and I think we've covered Anthony before.
Anthony, stop shilling for modern shit. No one is going to believe that Witching Hour is better than Dangerous Habits. No one.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Day of Judgment for that matter, because fuck you.
One recent storyline brings in one of DC Universe's most powerful collection of heroes to face down the supernatural threats that have the power to destroy reality, and that is the Justice League Dark. The newest iteration is led by Wonder Woman and includes teammates like Satana, Detective Chimp, Man-Bat, and Swamp Thing. The storyline saw the evil witch Hecate.
Hecate, and for the record, she's not supposed to just be a witch. She's supposed to be a goddess, and somehow they tie every aspect of magic in the DC universe to her, which is really annoying because one of the things that DC and Marvel have both really been great at doing is acknowledging the existence of all the various different pantheons and not really putting one above the other, except for monotheism, because you got to pander to Christian readers and shit. But you know that's somewhat excusable.
The one
but
above
now it's
all.
just, yeah, but now it's just apparently the most powerful pantheon in the DC multiverse, aside from the monotheistic one, is the Greek pantheon.
Yeah.
Because Wonder Woman is really popular and hot right now. So tie everything to Hecate, because fuck logical or universal consistency and how awesome our universe used to be, because fuck everything, burn it to the ground.
I can never pronounce.
God, I hate this, and I hate it even more that it managed to get above Day of Judgment and Dangerous Habits, because both of those stories were awesome.
Ever since I read up about Hecate, I could never pronounce her name. I always called it like Hecate or something like that. I can never pronounce her name.
Yeah, comes to Earth to collect the power she stored within humans, turning them into the Witch Mark to battle the monsters she stole her magic from. The team fights for leader Wonder Woman's soul when she is marked herself. So that's why she looks like that.
That's why she looks like Granny Goodness.
Okay, so I have mixed feelings about Wonder Woman being involved in Justice League Dark.
Dark
Is-
Knight's Metal. I knew they would. I knew Dark
Number
Knight.
two.
Fucking damn it!
I will read that as soon. Give me one moment. I got to plug in my phone.
Okay.
I feel like I should change my avatar to Demon Batman there. You know what? I will.
God
Okay.
damn it! Just like, why CBR would you do this? Why would you propose to rank comics and then only put the stupid modern shill shit at the top? God, why?
You're not a fan of Barbados there?
Okay, well, for one thing, in order to talk about Dark Knight's Metal again, I'm gonna have to talk about Daniel Hall, who I hate. So there's
I
that.
guess that explains that.
It's just like, why? I'll save it for when he comes back, because this just the very idea that anyone in their right mind would put Dark Knight's Metal and The Witching Hour above Dangerous Habits and Day of Judgment just pissed me off. So now I am innumerably pissed off.
Well,
Because
it's
not only are you going to make a mockery of ranking anything, but you're going to make me have to talk about Daniel Hall again. And so fuck you.
but it's so edgy, Dalton.
I'll be honest. I didn't really care. And Corrupt just vanished.
Yeah, what happened?
No idea. Oh boy.
Yeah, maybe his computer crapped out or something. Anyway, let's continue on, and hopefully he'll jump back in sometime
Right.
when my incoherent, angry bullshit ravings about this, because there will be those, I have a feeling.
Mhm. Well, I was going to say that I didn't really care for Dark Knight's Metal, just on the fact that, well, I stopped really caring about DC Comics and the fact that most of their stuff now is kind of just boring to me.
DC has utterly, completely fucked every ounce of goodwill I've had for them in recent years, and that makes me sad. Because I don't know if you have noticed this, but DC Vertigo is a huge part and parcel of why I'm a comic book fan. So the idea that they take every excellent ounce of world building that DC Vertigo was a huge instrumental part in and fuck it to the ground because of some contrived we need everything to be an event every 5 minutes bullshit. It's just really fucking annoying. But proceed so I can actually rant at things rather than just about them.
There we go. I had to put on my Halloween costume. What do you think of my Halloween mask, everybody?
It is really horrifying. Good job.
Thank you.
Oh god.
Wait, did you put that on because I had one on?
Yes. I wanted to get in. I wanted to get in with the season. You know.
You know what? You should get a mask of Dan Didio. He's a lot scarier than Mark Waid.
I don't know. Mark Waid is currently fucking over my favorite character in Marvel, so
Well, Dan Didio is kind of responsible for all of the bullshit in DC right now. So
to be fair, a large part of that goes to Brian Michael Bendis because Bendis will not leave.
okay, Grant. Okay, so fair. So I guess Corrupty might want to get a mask of Bendis then.
Oh, probably should. There we go.
Oh, are you stealing my thing with the whole evil Batman picture?
Yes, I am, sir. Yes, I am.
You know what?
Okay.
I'm gonna take it as a imitation is a form of
Sincere form of flattery and move on.
Sincere form of flattery. Well, really, it's because since you're doing like a Halloween themed, since we're doing Halloween themed podcast, and I just saw Barbados there looking all sinister. I was just like, I think I'll just use that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Anyway,
mostly the spirit of things.
let's get into my inevitable evisceration of Dark Knight's Metal.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Dark Knight's Metal, number 2, one of the most disturbing and dark stories of the recent DC Rebirth era. and one that can technically be called a horror story is Dark Knight's Metal. While dealing with the cosmic universe and multiverse as a whole, the story involves the dark multiverse, with twisted and cruel versions of heroes in the dark DC multiverse. The core of this story involves dark versions of Batman, each representing a power of a core Justice League member, as well as a demonic leader known as Barbados, a dark god. The scariest one, however, is the Jokerized Batman, the Batman Who Laughs, who originally was my face, but I recently had some work done.
and said work was botched, so now he's just wearing a scarecrow mask. Anyway, so getting into the stupidly contrived bullshit that is Dark Knight's Metal. Okay, DC, my dudes, listen to me on something. If you listen to me on nothing else, listen to me on this. You can't just stick dark in front of something and make it automatically more edgy and more serious. You actually have to go through the process of actually making something dark or edgy. In a comic book company that used to produce Vertigo comics, you can't just stick the word dark on something and then expect us all to cringe in horror. Not to mention, if you're going to insist on making all these multiversial events and shit, try not utterly breaking every ounce of continuity you've ever had every time you do it. Because it's really getting old really quickly. And also, fuck you, you could have used the opportunity for DC Rebirth to bring back the original Dream of the Endless, and instead you stuck us with the two-bit, bitchy, whiny Dream Jesus replacement, which is Daniel Hall.
Jesus, I love that.
Well, that's basically how it ends up, because basically, at the end of the original run of Sandman, the embodiment of Dream that we've been following dies. And through a series of bullshit plot contrivances of basically he's the chosen one narratives, all of his powers and shit get bestowed upon the child of Hector Hall, and I forget who his wife. As a result, basically he becomes the Deus Ex Machina Dream Messiah, and everyone bends over backwards to make him feel like a badass, even though he's not actually done anything to prove himself and doesn't act anything like the original Dream, and basically just is a palette swapped version of the original Dream design-wise, because we couldn't think of anything more creative to do for him. So yeah, fuck Daniel Hall. He should have replaced Wesley Dobbs as Earth's embodiment of the dreaming, not replaced Dream himself. And side note, given that his sister is Death, he really should be functionally immortal. He is the concept of Dream. You shouldn't be able to kill him like that in the first place.
I agree.
That's another fucking issue for another fucking day.
It's like you can't kill someone that is a living concept.
Well, not only that, but again, his sister is Death, and they are like the closest possible siblings you could get. So
yeah, so I mean, you would think that he would have some sort of immortality.
you would think even if there was something that was able of killing him, he could just go to his sister and be like, "Sister dearest, would you mind not taking me?" And she would probably be like, "Yep," and then it would be done. Like, this isn't that hard. But apparently it is, because stupid bullshit plot contrivance reason. Anyway, moving on, because I'm sure there's another really shilly addition to this list that I'm gonna have to rage again. So let's get on with it.
Number 1, Blackest Night.
Okay, this one I will give you, but I wouldn't quite qualify it as a horror comic. I mean,
there's zombies in it. Of course, it's a horror comic. I'm just joking.
I mean, Necron is a death-based villain, but simply having death in it does not a horror comic make. and just because the Black Lantern Corps are technically zombies, that also does not a horror comic bank. But try and defend yourself, CBR. I'm just impressed you did something before New 52 this time. And also thank you for that, because all the stupid shills in the middle of the list were fucking stupid. You should have replaced those with some actually good DC horror books.
The most horror-based crossover storyline of DC Comics has to be Blackest Night. The story of the villainous Black Hand gaining a Black Lantern battery and a horde of Black Lantern rings arriving on Earth to corrupt heroes and bring back characters who lost their lives years earlier in the DC universe. With the almost zombie-like Black Lantern Corps descending on the DC universe, surviving heroes and villains alike will take on a power ring to battle the corrupt Black Lantern threat. And it takes the power of White Lantern rings to turn the tide against the villain Necron.
Yeah, back when DC actually cared about their cosmic continuity and shit. At least they didn't put Dark Knight's Metal at the top of the list. Or fucking Witching Hour. Fuck Witching Hour.
Where Wonder Woman looks like Granny Goodness. At least in that pose.
Yeah, just god damn it.
Alright.
Yeah, I think she was supposed to be like, I don't know what the hell they were doing with that arc.
Mm-hmm. But anyway,
Okay, so
moving to the next topic.
a CBR article. 10 best horror-themed Marvel comic stories by Anthony Avina, who was the writer of the last article.
Okay, so essentially, while he was doing this, he decided to do it for both of them because clickbait, mostly, I would imagine.
Pretty much, I assume.
Let's see how far he gets this time before I have to rage.
Mm-hmm. As the spirit of Halloween season arrives and the desire to consume horror-based content builds up more and more, comic book fans around the world are chomping at the bit to engage with some horror-based content in their comic books. One company that has a lot of experience in this realm is definitely Marvel Comics. With a plethora of horror and supernatural characters, heroes and villains, there are a multitude of stories for fans to choose from. However, if you want the best, then look no further. Here are the 10 best horror-based Marvel Comics storylines.
Given your track record, Anthony, I'm expecting about half the list to be genuinely good and half the list to be you shilling for modern Marvel because reasons.
Number 10, Werewolf by Night.
Okay, well played. This is a good pick for the first one. Well done.
Sometimes a storyline can encompass an entire character's history and overall arc, especially when it comes to supernatural entities. From the world of Marvel, in the early years, many of their stories involved new and exciting supernatural creatures. One of those characters that is very popular is Werewolf by Night. The main Werewolf by Night is Jack Russell, a man who inherited the legacy of lycanthrope from his father. Cursed to be a werewolf for 3 nights a month, he loses his human intellect and shapeshifts into the creature. He's joined the Legion of Monsters to protect others.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night is an awesome character. Not my favorite of the monster characters from Marvel. That would probably be either the Werewolf by Night, Nina Price, or in Come to the Living Mummy, who is awesome. Also, Marvel's version of Frankenstein is pretty cool as well. But as a number 10 on this list of Marvel related horror shit, yeah, I'll give you this. Werewolf by Night's cool.
Yeah.
Dalton is cautiously optimistic.
I was cautiously optimistic though at the bottom of the last list as well, and then he wound up putting fucking Witching Hour and Dark Knight's Metal over top of Dangerous Habits and Day of Judgment. So I have my reservations still.
Mm-hmm. Number 9, Death of Dracula.
Okay,
Although the villainous Dracula has perished in many battles in the Marvel Universe, There was one memorable moment that came after the events that saw him attempt to take over the United Kingdom, securing a truce with Dr. Doom's cabal, Dracula joined forces with Lilith, not his daughter, Baron Blood, and Captain Fate to launch an assault on the MI-13 heroes. I have never heard of this storyline.
Yeah, this one actually isn't my favorite Dracula-based story. It's one of the more forgettable ones. It was over in like 5 minutes relative to the overall continuity of the universe. I hope that the one I'm thinking of will wind up on this list somewhere, but I once again have my doubts.
Right. He nearly succeeded, but eventually was destroyed by the Excalibur sword after a battle between himself and Black Knight and Fiaza Hussein. After this, readers saw his life ended at the hands of his Ben Puric son, I don't know.
You okay?
Yeah, the names of the Marvel supernatural entities are not exactly pronounceable. So
Yeah.
You okay, Brainstormer?
you're not.
Yeah, a little tired, but pretty much fine.
Yeah. I don't know about anyone else, but I had this weird stomach thing earlier today.
My throat's been sore all day long, so
Like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, I don't know what was going on with it. I was asleep for like half the day because my stomach was just like killing me. I don't know what's going on.
The season's changing and it's letting viruses and whatnot flourish, so that's probably why. Anyway, let's continue on to the next.
Number 8, Rise of the Midnight Suns.
Okay, you get points for this one as well, because this one is badass, but why is it only number 8? Is it because you stuck shills in the middle of the list again? I'm going to hazard a bet that that's probably what happens.
One storyline that brought several of the Marvel Universe supernatural-based heroes and anti-heroes together has to be the Rise of the Midnight Suns. In this story, a team known as the Midnight Suns was formed, consisting of 2 Ghost Riders, Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze, the Night Stalkers led by Blade, Morbius the Living Vampire, and the Darkhold Redeemers.
Okay, incidentally, why the fuck is Morbius there? He was created by science, not magic. Fuck off.
Still technically a vampire, so.
Technically, but it's very well established that in the Marvel Universe, all vampires are linked with the Darkhold. So, again, I must ask why that while this storyline is still good, that has and was always my biggest complaint of why the fuck is Morbius here. Mostly because I think that they created Morbius without really considering how it connected to the rest of the Marvel Universe, and now they just are
Isn't he
stuck
supposed
finding
to-
places to stick him.
Isn't he more of a mutant than a vampire?
Yes. Because something must science experiment.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he said, I crave plasma.
Yeah.
In this storyline that saw the team's formation, the Ghost Riders received a vision of Lilith, not Dracula's daughter, the mother of all demons, invading the Earth using her children, the Lilin, to destroy the planet and secure it for her.
I do really wish they would use Lilith more often, but that goes pretty much for all media, because Lilith is a very interesting entity.
Number 7, Curse of the Mutants.
Okay, the fuck. Okay, explain yourself, Anthony. Explain yourself.
You shall.
After Dracula lost his life to his son, Zerus, the Vampire Legion set its sights on a new target, the mutant population. Traveling to San Francisco, the newly self-appointed Lord of the Vampires sets up a vampire to explode in the city, infecting many people, including X-Men hero Jubilee.
Yeah, this one was really, really stupid.
I'm starting to get that, yeah.
I remember when Jubilee became a vampire because they didn't know what the fuck to do with her, so she was just a vampire for like
Yeah,
forever.
this was the progenitor of that. Yeah,
This was ground zero for becoming of a stupid plot line that lasted.
yeah,
so
and
long.
it was as stupid as it sounds. So yeah, why exactly is this number 6 or is it 7?
It's
Or
7.
yeah, why is this number 7 when Midnight Suns and Werewolf by Night were both lower on the list? I feel like I'm gonna have similar complaints about this list as I do about the other one.
A part of me feels like I gotta do a video for my other channel on like how I would do the X-Men.
Hey, more content is more content, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to say that for next year because I already have so many videos planned right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Infected by a manufactured vampire virus, Jubilee is drawn to Ceres, who bites her and turns her into a vampire. She later tricks Wolverine and turns him as well, and only by teaming up with Blade and resurrecting Dracula are the X-Men able to defeat Cyraxus and help Jubilee.
Yeah, the only good thing that came out of this storyline, and I do mean the only good thing, is it led to one of my favorite Elseworld comics, or rather, What If comics, which is What If Wolverine was the Lord of the Vampires?
Yep. Okay. Number 6, Monsters Unleashed. Man, what the fuck is that art?
It was a recent book, and it was, well, I liked it, but it was a very poorly executed. It was a good concept, very poorly executed. Let's just put it that way.
So basically, like everything Marvel's done lately.
Kind of. Although this was a little bit before the encroachment of postmodernism everywhere.
Ah, okay. If giant monsters battling in cities around the world and causing mayhem is what readers are looking for, then the large Marvel crossover event Monsters Unleashed is perfect for them. This story sees the world battling an invasion like no other. Giant monsters are falling from the skies all around the world. All of the heroes of the Marvel Universe battle giant monsters from the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy to Black Panther and Elsa Bloodstone. A new hero, Kai Kawade, masters his inhuman power to summon monsters known as Goliathons to battle the invasion of Leviathan monsters.
Beware him, Goliathon.
Yeah, see, this could have worked if it had been like a spin on B movie like kaiju stuff, but they didn't do anything like that with it.
I like how just utterly disappointed Dalton is in this entire thing.
Well, because you know, like the supernatural and the fantastical are kind of my particular area of expertise. So it's like, and it's not like every book is magic based or supernatural based. So when I see, ooh, a new supernaturally or fantastically based comic is coming out, I've got to read that because it's
Yeah,
my area of expertise. And then it's shit. It's just like, well, it's not like this is one of the hundreds of thousands of science fiction based comics that I can just uh, pretend like it doesn't even matter. Like, there's only so many comic books that are supernaturally or fantastically based. So you just fucked up something extremely rare, and now I have to live with the fact that it's fucked up.
like something I enjoyed is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 5, Damnation.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you stupid, stupid cunt. God. So now I'm gonna need to explain my many myriad issues with Damnation, aren't I? But
Yeah,
let's give him the chance to at least explain the premise before I go on a rant.
Okay. In one of the most recent horror-themed storylines, fans were treated to an ultimate game with the devil himself. After the events of Secret Empire, Doctor Strange attempted to right a very large wrong and resurrect the city of Las Vegas and all its inhabitants. However, when the plan worked, he failed to realize the city had fallen into hell, and by bringing it back, brought Mephisto to Earth, turning the Avengers into Ghost Riders and torturing Doctor Strange. A group of supernatural warriors like Blade, Elsa Bloodstone, Wong, and others fought Mephisto and his army of demonic warriors. Okay, so yeah, no, it sounds like a really stupid story.
Okay. So, to begin with, this is a fucking stupid movie. This is something I would expect from a character like John Constantine, who is supposed to be a cosmic scale fuck up. This is not something I expect from the master of the mystic arts. Thank you very much. And yes, he basically does a massive bout of necromancy that virtually drains all of his magic after just having regained it from losing it the last time because the writers are fucking stupid. Raises the entire city of Los Angeles from rubble and resurrects every soul that died there, apparently. Accidentally resurrects Pandemonium, the capital city of hell, brings Mephisto to Earth, bets his soul and the soul of all of the Avengers that he's working with on a card game in a casino run by Mephisto. Mind you, as far as Doctor Strange is concerned, Mephisto is actually a fairly minor villain. That's one of the things I like about Doctor Strange. Other characters' major villains are just minor villains to him. Like, Blade's main villain is of course Dracula, and originally back in the 70s, Strange defeated Dracula in a 3-issue storyline. So that should give you an idea of the scale here. And classic Doctor Strange would be able to basically just bitch slap Mephisto back to hell with an exorcism spell, but because fucking not Richard Spencer, but Nick Spencer, Freudian slip of the most hilarious kind. Nick Spencer is a stupid cunt. This is what he does to one of my favorite characters. And instead of taking the lesson they should take from this, which is we really should stop ruining Strange as a character, they literally put a line in one of the issues where Blade says Strange needs to be taken down a peg.
Golf clap.
And this was the fucking sweater vest era of Blade too. This wasn't badass 90s Daywalker Blade. This was Blade who had been a substitute teacher wearing a Bill Cosby vest at one point.
Bill Cosby Blade. Well, I'm just making some Jello pudding for the kids.
Yeah, and it's just no, writers, that's the exact opposite thing that Strange needs. He needs to be risen up about a dozen pegs, because you keep knocking him down pegs and not bringing him back up at any point.
I would ask if he's okay, but I feel like the answer is going to be no.
I was forcefully reminded of one of my least favorite Doctor Strange storylines, and given the recent years, that's saying something. And not to mention, this was written by the guy who wrote Secret Empire. So, for anyone who doesn't feel my pain Doctor Strange-wise, just think about that. Think of what Nick Spencer did for Cap, and then imagine what he would have done to Strange in this instance. Fuck.
Okay. Number 4, Legion of Monsters.
I am not quite familiar with this one, but that's probably good because I probably need a little bit of a break after the just
and Shadowland
tidal wave of rage that I just expounded.
A unique storyline that explored the world of monsters in the Marvel Universe involved the Legion of Monsters. The new modern-day version of this team saw Morbius the Living Vampire, Werewolf by Night, and Man-Thing, joined by Encanto the Living Mummy, and Amphibian.
Okay, and once again, I must ask, what the fuck is Morbius doing there?
Technically, he
creature-
qualifies as a monster.
Technically, but like every time I see Morbius in a like supernaturally based team, I'm just like, is Marvel ever gonna clue on to the fact that creating Morbius was a stupid idea?
Yeah,
And-
technically, yeah. Morbius isn't really supernatural. He's like a science monster. So
Yeah, and it's just like, why is he even here? Like,
Though
the-
I have to ask, Don. You said you like Frankenstein's monster.
oh, you're right. Frankenstein's
but that,
monster is
but
technically-
that's because he's like a classic pulp monster, and they basically give him superpowers in this version. It's a really nice nod to like classic horror. Morbius is just the stupid mistake that Marvel keeps making and keeps shoving in my face every time they add him to a supernatural.
he's on par with. It's kind of weird because I get where Brainstormer's coming from. Like technically, he exists in this weird limbo of being a supernatural creature, because he's a vampire, but he's also like a science-based vampire, which makes him somewhat of a mutant, like the lizard, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so he kind of occupies this weird gray space, which I imagine is what Dalton keeps hitting
Wait,
on.
you also have to keep in mind that Morbius the vampire was created because of the comics code thing. That he couldn't be a vampire, so he had to be the living vampire.
Right, okay, yeah, fine. But Dracula is a vampire proper, and that was just after the. Actually, I don't know when Marvel actually first introduced Dracula. I know his battle with Strange in the Montesi formula was in the early 1970s, so it couldn't have been that long after Morbius that they introduced Dracula. So they could have done vampires properly. They just, in this one instance, didn't, and have not decided to fix it in the decades of intervening years. And rather than admit to their fuck ups and actually put him with a more scientifically based team of like villains, like hell, have Morbius join the Thunderbolts, or have him team up with Mysterio, who is also kind of occupying that sort of replicating supernatural shit but scientifically area. Like there are ways you can use Morbius that don't involve shoving him into a team where he basically has no fucking business being.
I would say it's a little bit of a gray area for me because both because of the points that have been raised before. Yeah.
Or
mad.
how about this? How about a storyline where somebody kills Morbius and he gets brought back as an actual proper vampire using the Darkhold? That would be cool.
I love how Morbius it just like fucks with Dalton on like a very psychological level.
It's just like for one thing, this is a stupid plot contrived character to begin with. But if you're gonna use him, find a way to use him that doesn't like shit on the entire rest of your like supernatural, cosmic, and occult like continuities here. Because like Blade is half proper vampire, so and the worst thing is they never address it either. Like there's never a scene with Blade and Morbius just being like, how the fuck do you even exist? Like something like that. At least addressing it would bother me a lot less. But they never.
Well, he's a mutant. If you wanna call it that, he's a mutant.
Yeah.
So that I guess is the thing that makes him quote unquote different, I suppose, is that he's not, like you said, he's not a proper vampire. He's not undead. He's a mutant.
Well, and
Increased
also, like, this probably wouldn't bother me so much if they didn't make it very clear in the Marvel Universe what vampires are. Like, there are entire storylines where they go into, like, the lore of vampires and the creatures of the night in general, and then you have Morbius as just this one dude who got the shit end of a science experiment back in the 60s, and now he's a thing that flies in the face of basically all of conventions of every part of reality. Like,
I need plasma. Like, go ahead.
see that would be fun if they did like a Morbius solo series where they kind of toyed with the fact that he does belong to neither world, kind of, and him having to kind of adjust to that, like have
I
proper
think-
vampires reject him because he's not supernaturally based, and then have like the science-based villains think he's too theatrical and too mystical to hang out with them. Like, that would be cool.
I think what makes him interesting is the fact that he is, I guess, a contradiction to the established rules and such of what it means to be a vampire in this universe. I think I enjoy that aspect of him.
I
Although
guess,
I know
but
it fucks with you, and that's kind of funny.
well, no, but if they actually addressed it, like if that was part of his character of trying to find a place to fit in the universe, and they could easily do that. They could turn it into like a psychological thing where he was made into this monster, and now he doesn't fit with other monsters or people, so he's just stuck in this weird limbo area. Like, that would be an interesting storyline. But like they kind of tried to do something like that with Swamp Thing and Man Thing a couple of times, but they never have addressed it with Morbius. It's just like, Morbius is here, and yes, he flies in the face of every established continuity, but nobody mentioned it ever. You are forbidden from mentioning this incredibly glaring fraction in our universe's psyche, but what have you.
He's a fucking mutie.
Like that would also be cool. Like, have him try to hang out with like Nightcrawler or Toad or some of the other like more visibly warped mutant type villains, and have them reject him too because they don't really know where to put him either. Like, that would be interesting.
Yep. To help protect the monsters being unfairly hunted down in the world. After Frank Castle lost his life, he was reassembled and brought back as Franken Castle, Frankenstein-like monster, who agreed to help protect the innocent monsters of the world. The story includes helping Red Hulk, who is bothered by a truly evil spirit.
Yeah, I don't really remember this one very well.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Shadowland, number 3. My number 3 is Shadowland.
You can tell this is modern. Look at the art.
Yeah. Oh.
I had heard Shadowland was pretty good or something like that.
I don't remember much about this story. So
I don't
maybe.
have an opinion on it because I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. A rather unique horror story that doesn't start off as one happens to be Shadowland. In this story, readers are treated to a dark story involving Matt Murdock's descent into villainy. Upon assuming leadership...
That explains why I've never read it, because Matt Murdock is not a character that I follow very closely at all.
Shadowland is a 2010 comic book storyline published by Marvel, centering on Daredevil and other street-level superheroes in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I'm curious why this one is above some of the better ones on this list. Again, I'm just left going, why? What the fuck?
I got it. Upon assuming leadership of the Hand, Daredevil institutes martial law over a portion of the city of New York, namely Hell's Kitchen. Declaring himself the protector of that realm, the other heroes must battle him when he executes Bullseye. It is discovered, however, that this is not merely Matt Murdock, but a possessed Daredevil who's being taken over by the Beast of the Hand, the Hand's monstrous leader.
Yeah, that sounds mostly disposable, and I've not looked into it, so I'm going to withhold judgment. But it doesn't sound like it should be above some of the other ones on this list.
Number 2,
It
Spirits
does
of Vengeance.
sound like a throwaway story, doesn't it?
Shadowlands?
Yeah, no, not Shadowland. The is that the one you just read with the Daredevil being possessed by the Beast? Yeah, that's a throwaway story, but I mean, it might be good. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Number 2, Spirits of Vengeance. I believe that is a relatively new comic.
This one was all right from what I remember, but maybe he'll jog my memory of something I thought was stupid. Who knows?
Recent horror story brought to life in Marvel Comics was Spirit of Vengeance. The story found Blade, Johnny Blaze, Darian Hellstorm, and his sister Satana joining forces on the eve of a major summit of peace between the representatives of Hell and the representatives of Heaven, who are constantly at war. Upon learning a plot has been arranged for a lone gunman to use a magical bullet to end Heaven's rep, the supernatural heroes fight to intervene before the forces of Daemon and Satana's father, Satan, can be unleashed on Earth, and the apocalypse started years before its arrival.
Yeah. This one was all right. It wasn't great or anything, but it was a pretty decent story.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. Not sure about the art though.
Oh, you don't care for the art?
It looks kind of flat.
Yeah, modern Marvel art is just shitty as a general rule, unfortunately.
I mean,
DC too is starting to drift into what the fuck am I looking at?
I like the
territory.
art, but I can see that. I can see the argument for being kind of flat.
Yeah, it's just for some reason I find like it doesn't have like the dimension to it. Like it doesn't feel like it pops off the page. You know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Number 1, Marvel Zombies.
In other words, the obvious answer again for number 1. Okay.
Probably the most gruesome and horror-based story in Marvel Comics comes from one of the many. What?
Hello?
Well, I thought you said something, so I was.
Oh no, I just said it has zombies. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of figured that's what you said. I just wanted you to repeat it just in case someone didn't hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you though, Brainstormer.
That's fine. Okay, where was I? Alternate universe of the Marvel multiverse, and that is Marvel Zombies. In this world, a majority of the world's heroes have been infected by a zombie virus, and it turns them from heroes into monsters who consume everyone in sight. The series expanded 4 volumes and saw the zombified heroes attacking survivors and even feasting on the body of the intergalactic being Galactus, turning them into cosmic zombies who roam the universe, feasting on many worlds and even trying to explore the multiverse.
Yeah, and they don't really do anything super innovative with Marvel Zombies, but it's a decent take on like a zombie story in a superhero universe, so it's fine.
Yeah.
My only complaint here is that was the obvious answer, and it seems like it does seem like he spends like the early stages of the list talking about the ones that actually should be talked about, and then he for some reason puts all the like Marvel shills or DC shills in the middle of the list, and then tops it with the absolute most obvious entry.
Well, Dalton was right. He guessed it. Like half the list would be something he absolutely hates, and the other half would be something he agreed with.
Yeah. I'm beginning to think that the author doesn't actually read these. He just puts them in the order of like
He's
he
the
feels like
writer for CBR.
Yeah.
He's the writer for CBI.
I'm reasonably certain he didn't actually read any of these, and he just put them in the order he thought was most like popular or convenient. Or he like went to Wikipedia and like did a web search of each of these and picked the ones he thought sounded good. So
Journalists not doing actual work. That's surprising.
Journos.
Yeah. Speaking of journos, let's move on to the thing. Well, actually, that's not until later, but we can move on to the thing that would piss them off later.
Yeah, we're almost there, Don. So another top 10 list from CBR. It was a very slow week for us in terms of articles.
We wanted to start kind of slow dipping into the awesomeness that is Halloween, so as to not burn ourselves out entirely in the first go.
Yeah.
Also, we wanted to avoid some of the cringe because we had been kind of going a little bit hard on it lately. So we wanted to start with something that would be mostly innocuous. Little did we know those top 10 lists would be shite.
Right.
So
okay.
Sounds good.
Top 10. Okay. 10 best Halloween themed movie and TV villains by John Whittier. Whittier. John.
Yeah. John, fuck your surname.
Halloween is around the corner, and there's a certain chillness in the air as the days get darker, meaning it's the perfect time to binge watch your favorite spooky movies and television shows. But why choose any random horror movies when you can enjoy the horror icons that represent the Halloween spirit? In fact, let's shine a light on all the Halloween themed villains out there. Some are affable, some are scary, but they all might as well be the holidays mascot. Number 10.
Okay. You're setting the bar very high for yourself, sir. I hope you're aware of that.
I have faith in him, Dalton, even if you don't. I'm joking.
Given what we just went through with CBR top 10s, I make known my reservations and honor them.
Dalton's faith is lacking.
Right. Number 10, Michael Myers, Halloween. When your movie franchise is even named after Halloween, you might as well be the holidays mascot. Michael Myers killed his older sister on Halloween in 1963 as a young boy, and that was just the start. He escapes from an asylum on the holiday years later, also known as the Shape. The holiday also gives him the perfect excuse to wear a mask.
Okay, I'm gonna say a controversial thing, and it's probably gonna.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Go ahead. I gotta, some personal.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Okay.
I gotta use the bathroom.
But what I'm gonna say is, despite what a lot of Halloween movie fans might think, there's really no reason for the Michael Myers movies to be called that, because really Halloween itself doesn't make that much of a difference to the overall franchise, and there aren't very many Halloween-esque elements. I mean, you could make the argument for like Halloween 3 and Halloween 5, where they resurrect him as like a demonic god king thing, but for the most part, it's just a generic slasher movie. Now, granted, it was one of the first generic slasher movies, so it gets some kind of pass there, but there's really no reason for these movies to be heavily associated with Halloween, except for the fact that they're named that. Feel free to disagree with me, though, Brainstormer.
Well, I mean, I do disagree with you. I think Halloween has kind of plays a little bit of a role within the movie and the story itself, but I can see where it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's not like Sam Hain from Trick or Treat, where like every ounce of that movie is pure distilled essence of Halloween. It's just kind of like if you had taken if you had taken out Halloween and put it at Mardi Gras and had him do it that way, it doesn't really change the tone of the movie that much.
Okay.
I guess that might be one of the flaws with having your main character be such a shapeless mass of just slasher tendencies.
That's kind of the point of him, though, is that he isn't human. He's pure evil.
No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, like, it's hard for movies that feature a featureless character to have very distinctive qualities to them. And some of the sequels manage it better, but like the first couple Halloween movies wouldn't really give you the impression that Halloween was a necessary part of the franchise. But like I said, I knew this was going to be a controversial thing, so feel
It's
free
not
to
necessarily
come.
controversial. It's just a talking point.
Mhm.
Okay. He's going to be the villain in a series of films in the Halloween franchise and Rob Zombie's 2018 reboot.
Was it that? I didn't think it was that.
No, that wasn't. That's not it. That he's thinking of the actual reboot of. But he's thinking of the 2007-8 ones, I believe.
Yeah, because Rob Zombie did those a while ago.
Yeah. So that's a point off for misinformation.
Yeah, but basic factual misinformation that you apparently didn't check. Shame.
Yeah. Okay.
Shame.
According to Horror Freak News, a series of novels released around the time of the first film gave an interesting explanation for his crimes. He's possessed by a boy who murdered the girl he loved and was cursed to roam the earth, repeating his crime for all eternity. Not only would this make Michael a victim in all this, stopping him isn't really going to stop anything.
See, now, if the movies in question had a more overt supernatural element like that, that would be more Halloween-y. But
Cornell Cochran, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Season of the Witch might be the redheaded stepchild of the Halloween franchise, well, with it being an attempt to make an anthology of spooky Halloween movies. But at least it gave us another villain. Fun fact, Season of the Witch was actually supposed to be the sequel. And I believe that is corrupt.
Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry, my stomach is something weird is going on with my stomach. Like before, I had like a piercing pain, but now it's dull, and now I'm not in any pain at all. I don't know what's going on with me.
Did you eat something bad?
Just don't die.
I think so. Like what? I don't want to die either, so I hope not. I don't know what's going on with me today. Like my head was hurting. I honestly don't know what's going on with my stomach right now. I hope it passes by tomorrow. Though
it seems like you probably caught some kind of seasonal stomach bug.
I think so. I hate that too because like stomach viruses are the worst. Like Jesus, abdominal pain is just that's agonizing.
Yeah, that sucks.
Jesus fuck, man. Holy fuck. All right. Sorry about interrupting you guys. Go ahead.
No, we just started the number 9. Connell Cochran, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So where was I?
I hated that shit so I hated Season of the Witch. I know some people like it. I just didn't personally like it.
I like it. I like it, I think, more than most people. Because it did try to at least have
magic and shit.
Huh?
It had like robots, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was very campy, but at least it felt more Halloween-y than the usual like Michael Myers movies do. that was my controversial confession that you missed. I don't really feel like the Michael Myers movies make Halloween a very important part of them. Like if you just switched it around to be on any other given day, it wouldn't really
Like
make that
they
much of a difference.
like the Halloween, like Halloween feels tacked on. Is your argument basically?
Yeah, it's immaterial to like the tone of the movie or the like themes of the movie. It's just sort of there. And granted, this was one of the first slasher movies, so I guess by 1970s standards, it was very Halloweeny, but like there's no supernatural element, it's not particularly spooky. The lore of Halloween itself doesn't really come in anywhere. It's just generic slasher dude.
I mean, it does have a very generic. Well, it does have a very generic slashery sort of feel to it. I agree.
At least in the first couple, after it embraced the kind of campy quality, I thought they got better, but at least for the first couple, I'm just like, why is this called Halloween again? Does this ever come up or become important to the plot? Like what? Or the characters? Like I don't. This annoys me.
Had it been more successful, we could have had a whole slew of Halloween-themed villains from just one franchise.
Yeah, yeah, because it was it was supposed to be an anthology, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. Connell Cochran poses as the CEO of Silver Shamrock Novelty Company in his day job, basically as a kindly toy maker. Beneath his friendly demeanor, he plans to return Halloween to its origins as a harvest festival, just not the kind of harvest you're thinking of. Inspired by Celtic mythology, he plans to sell cursed Halloween masks that will kill all the children of the United States as a holiday sacrifice.
See, now, in contrast to what I just got through saying about the Michael Myers Halloween movies, does this or does this not sound infinitely more Halloween based? Like, even the kind of campy robot shit is something that you would see in a more whimsical Halloween story. So I'm as cheesy and awful as Season of the Witch kind of is, I kind of love it for at least trying to inject some Halloweenness into the Halloween franchise.
Yeah.
Sam Hain.
It's the Sam Hain, yeah.
Oh, that's how you spell it. I've been spelling it wrong this whole time, then.
Oh, that's how you spell Sam Hain? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I thought it was Hayne.
Yeah, so did I, actually.
Yeah, it gets even more confusing in that it's supposed to be pronounced Samhain, but still spelled like that. Because Celtic pronunciation and all.
Right, okay. Number 8, Sam Hain, Supernatural. Speaking of Halloween's origins, Supernatural gave us Sam Hain, the literal personification of the origin of the holiday. In the episode, it's the Great Pumpkin, Sam Winchester. Sorry, just been given a Butterfinger.
For Halloween. There you go.
Well, yeah. Halloween candy for Halloween. Well done.
I'll be honest, they're not my favorite.
Ugh.
It's like they're like super hard to bite, you know?
Yeah, I enjoy them. I enjoy them for what they are, but yeah, I can understand them not being anybody's favorite.
Yeah, I gotta say, I do like them myself.
But anyway, back to the
Right.
description of.
To be more precise, he's a demon, possibly one of the oldest in the show's universe, who was worshipped as a god on Earth.
Yeah, and honestly, I wish they had waited to address this until the later seasons, because in the later seasons they roped in more overtly quote unquote pagan stuff, and instead they just they overly Christianized it, and given that Sam Hain is a Celtic festival, it would have been nice if instead of making him a generic demon dude, they had just made him a Celtic god. Like instead of actually using the name Samhain, they could have used like the Celtic god Cernunnos, or maybe like the Morrigan of Celtic mythology.
To be honest, they
Using the-
lowered a lot of the other gods. Remember when all the gods were basically a little more than like, I mean, they were a little more than demons anyway. Like,
Well, yeah, it's kind of the same principle that Marvel and DC operate by. It's like we have to pander to a Christian audience, so the other gods can exist, but the monotheistic god has to be the primary one because reason.
yeah, the other gods basically. And I think in Supernatural, they diminished all of the other gods, like Parvati. Wait, that's Parvati? Yeah, she is a god.
Yeah, I one of my favorite episodes of Supernatural, called Hammer of the Gods, where they all sort of commingle together.
And then in a meeting or something, right?
Yeah, to basically try to see what they can do about the whole Judeo-Christian apocalypse thing. And I also love that they call it that because they all have like their competing apocalypses. So like, oh, this is your guys' apocalypse. Mine isn't for a while yet. And so
Don't they
on and
all
so
get
forth.
killed by Lucifer?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because again, monotheistic superiority, yada yada yada. But it was at least nice to see them. And I think, let's see, Kali survived.
Yeah,
Um,
Kali survives. Yeah.
Kali survived. Baron Samedi, I think, survived. Ganesh survived. The only ones that we actually see get killed by Lucifer are Mercury, stroke Hermes, Balder, Odin, and I think that's it.
How much of a slap in the face is that, though? Right? Like they don't even get killed by another god; they get killed by a construct of a god. Like that's insulting. I would say.
Well, to be fair, the archangels are significantly more powerful than pagan deities in the supernatural multiverse.
I mean, maybe I feel like they shouldn't be though. I mean,
Well,
that's
to be fair, Kali makes Gabriel her bitch, so
I mean, no. What I'm saying is, I feel like they shouldn't be. I feel like they shouldn't be on par with like with a god.
yeah, I totally get what you're saying. But it's it's like I said, it's the monotheistic superiority thing
Sure.
because we have to appeal to like the main Christian audience of the show. So but I get where believe me, I get where you're coming from. I worship both of these deities on some level, so it's like I have anyone understand what you're saying.
All right.
But
All right.
to be fair, Kali does get the best speech in the Hammer of the Gods episode. Like Gabriel is telling her that like you can't stop Lucifer. He's gonna turn you guys into finger paint, yada yada yada. And she just goes on this epic rant about how arrogant Western deities are, and she ends it by saying, "You're not the only religion, and he's not the only God. We were here first, and if anyone gets to end this world, it's me." And then she stabs him with an archangel blade. It's a really epic moment.
Right.
Like I was seriously like, yes, you go, girl, kind of when I saw that the first time.
Isn't his sister the final antagonist for the entire? No, wait, God is right. Isn't he the He's the final antagonist for the final
Yeah,
season, right?
God betrays them because they try to shoot him for killing Jack, and then he reveals basically that I only created this universe for my entertainment, and if you're not going to be entertaining, then actual apocalypse this time.
Are you serious? That's his
Yeah.
reasoning?
Yeah,
That's
because remember, God in the supernatural universe is Chuck, the writer, so he literally treats each universe he creates as a draft of a story. And anytime the story veers off in a way he's not expecting, or they don't play the game he sets up for them, he's just like, nope, wipe the slate clean on this universe. Time to
I
start off with the
guess
next
I
one.
don't know. That just feels like such a lame fucking way to end the story. To end Supernatural, we're like, oh well, I'm a bad guy now. Like I don't know.
Okay, so I have a theory about why and how they're gonna end Supernatural. Either he's going to ruin them and then he's going to snap his fingers and wind everything back and go, what did we learn? Or they're going to actually manage to get rid of him, and it's going to result in the end of all of the supernatural aspects of their universe. And that will sort of tie the title back to the show. Essentially, Supernatural then becomes the story of how they dealt with all of the supernatural stuff, and there's no more supernatural stuff to be dealt with. I could see it going either way, because in the episode where he quote unquote betrays them, he literally goes on a long rant about how he doesn't want to get involved, and then they essentially beg him to get involved when Jack becomes too powerful to control. So he snaps his fingers and kills him, but because God killed Jack, Sam gets pissed off and shoots God with the gun that they gave him to kill Jack because he wanted them to do it, and basically clean up their own mess and not need a helicopter parent. And so God goes on this long speech about like, oh, so you don't want me involved now, huh? I told you I didn't want to be a helicopter parent, but if you're not gonna write the story, if you're not gonna play the game I set up for you, then fine, story's over. Snap. Resurrection of all the dead and so on and so forth.
Kind of a bitch move, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's kind of established that in this universe, the monotheistic God is a bit of a dick. Which I kind of like, given how kind of sympathetic all the other gods are. It's just like, oh, he might be the most powerful one, but doesn't necessarily mean that you should be worshiping him.
I mean, I remember his sister because I thought his sister would end up being like the actual antagonist for the show again.
Yeah, Imara, the darkness.
Yeah, since she was so powerful, the only way that she could be stopped is if God was like, "Hey, girl, don't be sad, be glad," and then she talked her down.
And instead, they both basically end up almost killing each other, and Dean has to play therapist for these immortal cosmic entities.
And then she fucks off.
Yeah. Well, technically, God fucks off too, but he reinserts himself, giggity, when Jack gets so powerful that he starts rewriting all of reality. So he's like, here's this pistol that will kill him definitely, and it'll kill anything that you pointed at because of some woo-woo nonsense I just made up. And then of course they refuse to kill him, and they beg God to do it, so God does it, and then he gets all resentful at them for making him have to be a quote-unquote helicopter parent. And then Sam gets mad at him and makes and shoots him with the "this is supposed to kill anything" gun.
I'm gonna be honest with you. That is a horrible. Everything you just described to me sounds absolutely like horrible writing. Like Jesus Christ, is that really what happens?
Yeah, and then God gets pissed because like, you know, the reason you guys survived as long as you did, it's because you guys are the only universe that ever did anything interesting after this point. So I let your universe keep going, but fine, if you don't want to play the game, fine, the story's over. Snap, raises all the dead.
That is really terrible. Is that literally how this?
It's how that season ends, and then the next season is gonna be, what do we do now that God isn't on our side anymore? Because what God basically said is, you know, all those times where it seemed like you were, where everything was impossible and you could never possibly get out of that. Well, I helped you with all those times because I just wanted to keep the story going. So I gave you a couple days ex machinas here and there. if you don't want to play my game, then fine. This time it'll really end, and this time, no Deus Ex Machina, and the song that starts playing is God Was Never on Your Side, because Total T is dead.
Like, I will say one thing when it comes to like the concept of like I will say one thing though, like the concept of like demon hunters and shit like that was always kind of ridiculous to me in the first place. It's like if there are like if there do exist like demons or monsters or creatures that are supernatural, like as a human you're just going to die. Like you can't win against something that's supernaturally powered anyway. So I don't know. I've always found that the concept silly. At least as it's sometimes executed with the like I'm sorry, but you can be a well-trained dude, but a well-trained dude isn't going to survive against something that can turn invisible and light you on fire with its eyebrows or something. You know, like no, that's not happening.
Yeah, it does kind of it especially with the Winchesters because they have like a prohibition against using magic unless they absolutely have to. With with someone like John Constantine, it makes sense because like he's well equipped with spells, so he can stand toe to toe with these things when as and when they are a
Yeah,
thing. But
like they
the
they have a
Winchesters
go ahead.
the Winchesters specifically have a we don't use magic unless we absolutely have to rule. And
Why
then
is
every
that?
time they do, it fucks them over. So,
Oh, because they always have a negative experience with it.
well, they only ever do it when like one of them is literally in the process of bleeding out on the floor or something. And then it becomes a whole thing of, well, you resurrected me and I didn't want to be resurrected. Well, last time was dying, you resurrected me and I didn't want to be resurrected. So how does
I,
it feel? And then it's
I'm gonna
it's
be
the
on.
stupid fucking family bullshit.
I'm gonna be honest. Like after having seen Supernatural since like up until like the Leviathan arc, because then I just got tired of the series. And hearing that, I'm just like, there's no way these two idiots would survive half as long as they have. Like, holy
Yeah,
shit.
to be fair, I will give Supernatural some credit, and I would advise you to get back into it purely for season 8, because season 8 was probably the best season of the show. They got their second wind, and season 8 was really really cool. Um, then
Hold on for
season
one
9
second.
was just kind of
Hold
middling,
on.
and
Awkward silence.
yeah. Let's bring the list back up. I'm sorry
Someone
we got
called me. Sorry about that.
yeah. I'm sorry we got so off on a tangent there,
All right.
brainstorming.
What were you saying about season 8?
Season 8 is, in my opinion, probably the best season of Supernatural. Um, they got their second wind after the shit show that was season 7, and it really worked out well. Granted, season 9 was just kind of mediocre-ish, but then season 10 was like now it's moved from like every season is decent to like one season will be really really good and the next season will be stupid, and then one season will be really really good and the next season will be stupid. But the good thing is the stupid seasons don't really change much of anything, so it just kind of becomes a thing. Yeah, I might recommend getting back into it just for the sake of season 8, because season 8 is
All
pretty good.
right. 'Cause, like, who's the villain for season 8 anyway?
Um, the villain for season 8, if I can fucking remember, is okay. Was that? I'm trying to think. Um, fuck me, I can't even fucking remember who the villain for season 8 was. Let's see. Um, fuck me. Okay, so there isn't really a main villain for season 8. It's mostly just more angels and demons fighting over the whole turf wars thing. Um,
As
but
if.
but what sets it up really well is they introduce a new concept, which is this society called the Men of Letters, where basically like these ancient monks that used to preside over all the hunter teams, and it turns out that Sam and Dean are descended from the Men of Letters, and there's a whole sort of period based subplot about like their great grandfather or their grandfather shows up and teaches them about all this like 1950s era secret society stuff, and it's essentially then it becomes more about cleaning up their messes. And no, I think yeah, and then through something the um Men of Letters know, they find they find these ancient tablets written by God that are like instruction manuals for all the supernatural creatures. So like there's a demon tablet, there's an angel tablet, and then there's uh, a Leviathan tablet, and so on and so forth. And so it becomes about actually managing to seal the gates of hell, because there's a spell on the demon tablet that will slam the gates of hell shut and lock all the demons in. So it becomes about heaven essentially helping the boys trying to complete the trials to close the gates of hell, and the demons getting all pissed because we don't want to be locked away for eternity, yada yada yada. And the thing that annoys me about where we're currently sitting with like season 12 is they foreshadowed the let's lock away all of the supernatural stuff thing before with the plot of season 8, and then they just didn't, because last minute cop out bullshit, because Sam was dying, and so Dean resurrected him, and that prevented them from closing the gates of hell, because of course the ultimate price of closing the gates of hell forever was one of them had to die, and anytime one of them has to die, one of them has to get all emotional at the very last second and pull a resurrection, because fuck off. And then season 9's about Sam gets possessed by an angel, and one of the characters that was introduced in season 8 turned out to be a villain, which is shitty because he was a really awesome character, and he contrives it so that all the angels will fall to Earth. And then season 9 is about essentially the nomad angels dealing with having been exiled to Earth, and there's a whole political nonsense thing about like they bring up the Knights of Hell, and it's season 9 stupid.
Oh, they bring in politics? Really?
Huh?
They bring in politics? Really?
No, this was before the whole refugee crisis became a thing. They just make it kind of like how season 7 was first about the souls and then about purgatory. They make it about basically like that again, where like the angels get exiled from heaven, so they have to adjust to life on Earth, and then one of the angels that's introduced in season 8, named Metatron, who is like the scribe of God.
Yeah, he's like what, the voice of God. Yeah.
Uses his knowledge to like rally all the angels to his side, because he essentially wants to be the new god. And also in the process of introducing the Men of Letters, there's time travel involved, so like one of the ancient Knights of Hell end up being released upon the modern world, even though they're supposed to all be dead already. And then it becomes about the search for a weapon that can actually kill the Knight of Hell and stop Metatron. And they end up finding the Mark of Cain can do it, because and that's where Imara comes in, because apparently in like the beginnings of time, the darkness tried to destroy God's creation, so he and the archangels locked her away in the mark, and God gave the mark to Lucifer, and it corrupted him, which made him evil, and that's apparently how Lucifer became evil in the first place. Then Lucifer gave the mark to Cain, hence it being the mark of Cain, and it turned him into a demon. And essentially, Dean gets stuck with the mark, and so around the end of season 9, the beginning of season 10, I don't remember which, they unlock the mark, and it sets Imara free, and that leads into the darkness subplot.
So, oh, that's interesting. So by going back to the gates of hell, so by sealing the gates of hell, that gets rid of all the supernatural shit.
Aside from the usual like monster of the week monsters, which they can handle no problem now, yeah, it would have locked away all the demons, and unfortunately one of them would have had to die to do it, and Sam was the one undergoing the trial, so he would have been the one to die. And Dean got emotional. He made a deal with one of the newly fallen angels named Gadriel to resurrect Sam, and the only way he could do it was by possessing him. So Sam is secretly possessed by an angel and doesn't know it for a while. Then it comes out, and then it's like, well, you should have let me die because I actually wanted to die, yada yada yada. And then it turns out that Gadriel was actually the angel in charge of guarding the Garden of Eden, and he was the one who let Lucifer inside in the first place. So he turns out to be evil. Then they meet Metatron in the process of like learning to close the gates in season 8, and he's a really awesome character, and he knows all this shit. And it turns out that he's evil and resentful towards the archangels for kicking him out, basically. So he casts a spell with the help of Castiel to essentially he lies to Castiel, and he says the spell they're doing will seal the gates of heaven as well. And it essentially looks at first like they're going to seal the gates of hell and seal the gates of heaven, and everything's going to be great. But actually, the spell is a spell to evict all of the angels from heaven. And now the angels are on Earth. Most of them are damaged because they couldn't survive the fall. And that leads into season 9 and its stupidity.
Okay, why? And I'll be quick because I know we have shit we got to do. Why were they going to seal the gates of heaven? Like, why did they want to seal the gates of heaven exactly?
Because the squabbling was putting humanity in danger, and there was this villainous angel named Naomi who was basically trying to be the new god, and she was like threatening to torture all humanity if Castiel didn't give her the angel tablet, yada yada yada. So Castiel was just like, fuck this, nothing the angels have ever done for me has ever like led to anything good. Let's essentially, and Metatron sells him this idea about, well, why don't we just put them we'll just put them all in timeout then? And he asks, what do you mean timeout? And then he goes, well, you know how the demon tablet has the spell to close the gates of hell permanently? Well, the angel tablet has a spell that will close the gates of heaven permanently. And then it turns out that it's an eviction spell, not a closing spell, and all the angels in heaven fall.
And
Metatron uses the leverage to essentially become the angelic messiah and promise to lead them back to heaven if they elect him the new god. And meanwhile, Abaddon, the Knight of Hell, is essentially pissed off that Crowley is the king of hell because all he ever was when she was around was a salesman, and so she decides to take over hell from Crowley, and that becomes a whole thing. And so it's heaven and hell getting all political and shit, trying to be all Game of Thronesy, and the boys caught in the middle like always. And that's season 9.
I take it you don't care for season 9.
Season 9 is okay. There are some really good episodes. Like, there's an episode where, like, Metatron is pulling the classic storyteller vibe. It's called metafiction. And that's probably the best episode of season
I wonder if you
9.
guys realize you've been talking for 20 minutes about Supernatural.
We can stop.
Yeah, okay. So let's get back to the list before we get sidetracked.
Yeah. Okay. Number 7, the Sanderson sisters, Hocus Pocus. It has been a long while since I've seen that movie.
It's one of my favorite Halloween movies. It's so cheesy, but that's kind of what makes me love it.
Sanderson sisters are 3 wicked witches who star in Disney's Hocus Pocus. Before you think they're too silly to be a threat, they open up the movie killing a little girl to regain their youth. They also curse her brother to be an immortal cat, so he'd have to forever live with the guilt of being unable to save her. It kind of makes you wonder if they can't just curse themselves with immortality.
So they won't die.
Yeah. Eventually, they do get hanged for their crimes in true Salem fashion, but they can come back if someone lights a candle for them during a full moon on All Hallows Eve.
Well, also remember, it has to be a virgin who lights the candle, and that becomes like 90% of the movie's jokes, because it's a teenage boy that lights the candle, and it becomes basically about half an hour's worth of virgin shaming in a hour and a half movie. Although to be fair to Disney on this one, they made the Sanderson sisters witches by the medieval definition, which means they literally sold their soul to the devil.
I like how they in one scene they like go, "Oh, master, we've returned."
Yeah, and it's a guy dressed up as the devil. Yeah. And they don't even shy away from the fact they sold their souls either, because there's one scene where the main character's sister yells at them for selling their soul. So props to you, Disney, for making one of the most lighthearted movies you've ever made. Also include a subplot where the villains literally sell their souls to the devil in medieval fashion. Well played.
Oh, and then someone was like, "Go to hell," and she's like, "We did. It was quite nice. It was quite nice, thank you," or something like that.
It's I've been there, thank you. It's quite lovely. I'd like to go back.
Like the way they die is kind of fun. The way they die is kind of funny. That was a really good movie, honestly.
It's cheesy, but it's cheesy in the way that makes it perfect for Halloween whimsicalness. So
Yeah, I liked it.
And that's just the start of the movie. They do come back and they plot to steal the youth from all the children of Salem 190's Halloween.
yeah, didn't that come out in like 1993? I want to say.
It had Kristen Dunst, who played Mary Jane in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Oh right, she was the girl who the guy had a crush on that made him light the candle in the first place.
Yep.
She was much better in that movie than she was as Mary Jane.
Oh, that's mean. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well,
Don't-
yeah, she wasn't awful as Mary Jane. I'm just saying her performance in Hocus Pocus was better.
Dalton?
What?
I'm giving you the look of disappointment right now.
I know.
Intense shame.
It's a good thing I don't feel shame hardly ever. It's a good thing I'm like 99% immune to shame.
Shame. It's like the like Game of Thrones.
No, it's not shame, it's disappointment. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
I'm not angry at you, Dalton. I'm just disappointed. Like a
Okay,
father.
but
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
but yeah, I love Hocus Pocus. In fact, I'm probably gonna watch it as soon as we're done with this because that's just awesome.
The children who accidentally brought them back try to stop them, and they give them quite a fight. You know the bad news when the zombie they rise from the grave ends up siding with the kids. It helps that they probably put him in the grave to begin with.
Well, yeah, and if I remember the backstory from the movie, Winifred sewed his mouth shut so that he couldn't tell her secrets even in death when she found him cheating with Sarah. So yeah, I wouldn't be very well disposed to her either, especially given that Billy was a Puritan and Winifred Sanderson was all three of the Sanderson sisters were confirmed to be witches in the medieval definition of the word. So yeah, I wouldn't be super plussed with her either. I wonder if Billy was even mad about being brought back as a zombie, because I can't imagine that would sit very well in the Puritan mind either. Like, not only did you bring me back to serve you, you brought me back as a zombie, which is an abomination against my gods.
Number 6, the surprise party girls trick or treat.
Okay, I am totally in favor of anyone and everyone from Trick or Treat being on this list, but of all the characters to put on this list, you pick the werewolf chicks.
It's number 6, and also we have 5 others to go. So, well, yeah, 4 others.
Yeah, well, they've already put 2 Halloween characters in here, so like they might do more than one Trick or Treat character. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. The Trick or Treat an anthology movie. Sorry, I thought I heard an echo. Okay, the Trick or Treat anthology movie gives us a whole cluster of scary stories for the holiday. In one segment, we are introduced to a group of girls, each dressed like storybook heroines. I'm not sure they count as heroines, but whatever. Notably, Lori and ingenuine dress. I don't know. I don't know what that word is.
Well, let me see. So it's hold on. How do I maximize? How do I increase the size of the screen?
I have no idea.
If you're on a standard computer, there should be like a zoom function somewhere.
Okay, let me see.
I think it's Control Z.
Oh wait, I have something here. Full. It's a full screen layout here. Didn't know that.
Hold on. That word. Let me see this word. Wait. Hold on.
Nice show. I don't know why I didn't look it up earlier, but.
And then Ingenue. I guess it's Ingenue.
Oh, Ingenue. Okay.
Ingenue. There we go. Ingenue.
That's why it's not. That's why it wasn't registering. She. What they're saying is that she is like the stereotypical young, pretty girl.
Innocent girl. Yeah, she's young and naive.
It's a French term for like female protagonists of stories.
Ingenue. Yeah.
An ingenue dressed like Little Red Riding Hood, who is concerned with her upcoming first time in air quotes.
Oh God, is this that stupid Halloween anthology movie where they're all werewolves and shit?
You might be thinking of a different one, but as it happens, yes, in this story they are all werewolves.
Yeah, they're all it's an anthology. No, I've seen this. It's an anthology movie. It has like they're all like little short stories that all interlock.
Yeah.
They cross over, but for the most part, they're anthologies.
Yeah.
And then and she's like, I'm so nervous about my first time," and then it turns out they're all werewolves, and then they end up killing the villain.
They make you worried that they are going to be the victims of the story, and then it turns out that first time didn't refer to sex, even though they make it a point to make it about sex in pretty much all the other, or potentially about sex in all the other situations. It turns out that her first time that she's worried about is her first attempt to snag a victim. And it turns out that the victim she snags is the
villain
high school principal who makes jack-o'-lanterns with his kid out of actual people's heads.
Yeah, and the candy he puts in the jack-o'-lanterns are like poisoned and shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
The girls are planning to bring dates to a Halloween bonfire. Of course, any good story of Little Red Riding Hood needs a wolf somewhere lurking in the background. And Lori and her friends aren't as innocent as they seem. Get the possibility?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we talking about only one story out of like 4 or 5?
Yeah, I brought this up, I think, while you were gone, Corrupt. Of all the characters to mention from Trick or Treat, and there are a lot of them because Trick or Treat's a freaking awesome movie. Why did you pick the werewolf chicks?
I will say that it is number 6, and we might get someone down the line.
We might get more down the line, but still.
Yeah, it just seems weird to pick a story that was honestly it was a non-story. Barely anything happened, and it was really short.
Yeah, it's probably by far the weakest of the Trick or Treat stories. If anything, I would have picked the Sam Hain goblin thing that basically does the Scrooge routine, but on a guy who dislikes Halloween for reasons.
Yeah. La Llorona, Grimm.
Okay, this is a different interpretation than the one I thought they were going to use, so go ahead.
Yeah. La Llorona, also known as the Weeping Woman, is a ghost from Latin American mythology.
I've seen this one too. It's okay.
It's not the movie version.
So this isn't the movie they're talking about?
No, it's a show called Grimm.
This is from the show Grimm they're talking about.
With different origins according to history today, usually being the ghost of a woman searching for her lost children. In the Grimm universe, she appears in an area near Halloween and sacrifices 3 children, only for her to appear again every year to find more children. During her appearance on the show, Nick manages to defeat her long enough to rescue the 3 children she's most recently stolen, meaning she's not unstoppable, but she's probably coming back next year.
Okay, why did this character rate so high above all the other ones you mentioned so far?
Why did the Wolf Girls rate so? Why are the Wolf Girls even on this list? They were barely in the fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, they were apparently above the Sanderson sisters, for fuck's sake. And when you talk to me about, like, Halloween archetype characters, the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus are pretty freaking high on that list.
Maybe it's because they're all female.
Maybe, but then again, you could have gone with the
little girl.
The little girl from Trick or Treat who
killed everybody.
No, the one who like knows all the Halloween shit and gets like harassed by bullies and then feeds the bullies to a ghost.
Ghouls.
Yeah.
Number 4, The Haunted Mask. I actually think this was like the first ever Halloween thing I saw as a kid.
The Haunted Mask from Goosebumps?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you this one, CBR. Well done. This should have been on here, probably. Although probably not as high as it is.
R.L. Stein series, the R.L. Stein series that did the impossible, got kids to pick up a book in the 90s. Started with a Halloween special based on the 11th book. Sweet little, yeah, how do you say that word again?
Ingenue.
Ingenue. Carly Beth Cadwell wants to be scary on Halloween.
Someone really likes the word
Yeah,
Hanji.
yeah. Somebody bought a word of the day calendar that some of the words
Exactly.
were in French of. Yeah,
Wants to be
because like ingenue works for the girl from the trick or treat segment, but like I wouldn't refer to a young girl protagonist of a Goosebumps story as an ingenue. I think maybe he just learned that word and decided to overuse it. Because there is usually a sexual element to the phrase ingenue. Like to be an
Yeah.
ingenue, you kind of have to be sexy. So either you don't know what that word means, or we're slowly backing out of the room now, my dude.
wants to be scary.
Because you applied it to a prepubescent girl.
Wants to be scary on Halloween to get back at some bullies, so she steals a scary mask for her costume. Unfortunately, it becomes a little too accustomed to her face. There's one hope. The living mask can be defeated by a symbol of love. That's not the end, however. Unlike the original book, he later comes back for revenge on Carly Beth.
To be fair, though, there were sequel books to some of the R.L. Stein properties, and I think there was eventually a sequel book for The Haunted Mask. I think. I know there was one for Monster Blood. I know there was one for Night of the Living Dummy. I know there was one for Say Cheese and Die. So it might have been inspired by the sequel episode from the series, but there were sequel books in the R.L. Stein canon.
You know what sequel I would want from a Goosebumps book? The Attack of the Mutant book.
That was a really good book, yeah, and a
Yeah,
and a really good episode of Goosebumps.
yeah, because it's about comic books. So
Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of what got me into wanting to get comic books.
Okay, well then, thank you, R.L. Stein, for contriving such things so that my friend and I will meet up and whatnot eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was actually like one of the first book series I'd ever started to read. Then got into comic books as a reading format. Right. Number 3, The Headless Horseman, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
I'm assuming it's probably the Disney version they're referencing.
Maybe. I'm not sure. It doesn't really.
Oh, that is the Disney version.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay.
To be fair, this does belong here.
That's you.
Unlike my sneeze, which does not belong here. Yeah, to be fair, given that this is probably one of the oldest American ghost stories that was actually written down, yeah, some version of the Headless Horseman had to be here, so it's kind of inevitable.
It's actually my second favorite kind of character for Halloween.
That doesn't surprise me. Interestingly, despite the Americanized lore of the Headless Horseman being like a Hessian soldier who got his head chopped off, given the history of Headless Horseman in mythology, he's probably just a Irish Doulahan that got brought over to America. There probably is no ghost aspect to him. He's probably just an Irish Doulahan.
You know what's weird?
Doulahans are ghosts. Doulahans are ghosts.
I thought they were fairies.
No, Doulahans are ghosts. Wait, hold on, let me make sure.
Well, no, it's kind of ambiguous, but they're usually more in the realm of fairy than in the realm of ghost. It's kind of like sometimes the banshee is thought to be the ghost of a dead person, but most of the time the Banshee is just a kind of fairy.
Let me see.
The Headless Horseman.
Go ahead.
The Headless Horseman is a horrifying specter from Washington Irving's short story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. As in the original story and its various adaptations, the cowardly hero Ichabod Crane is told by the ghost by his rival Brom Bones during a harvest party, only for him to meet the monster face to face as he rides home. Horseman might have just been Brom in disguise, but one thing is for sure: Crane is never seen in Sleepy Hollow again. I actually read that. I read that story years ago.
I was always distracted by Ichabod Crane's nose.
Yeah, like his entire body is just really, really disproportionate, and then his nose is like 90%, well, like 40% of his head.
Exactly, yeah. Like his face and head are like 90% nose. It's so distracting. Just like, how do you live? Like, where are your organs? I think that's the meme that's going around now on Twitter.
Well, but I mean the version from the Disney adaptation was very cartoonish, obviously. But
Yeah.
I'll give the Disney version some credit in that they actually did do a pretty straightforward adaptation of the uh short story. So good on you for taking as few liberties as possible, Disney.
I believe you're also a fan of the Sleepy Hollow TV show on Fox, or was
I
on Fox.
am. It was amazing, and it should have gone on for its full 7 seasons, but Fox are a bunch of cunts.
No argument here. They cut one of my favorite shows that was on at the time too.
And of course, lest we forget the infamous, "You canceled Firefly after 13 episodes, you stupid fox."
I wasn't that connected with Firefly. I was connected with Almost Human, which had Carl Urban in it.
Oh, that's right, it did. Fuck, yeah. Yeah, no, Fox, stop mismanaging the things.
Yeah, okay. With all the adaptations of the story over the years, the Headless Horseman has sort of retroactively become a Halloween icon. The Phillipsburg Manor House in the real-life Sleepy Hollow even hosts a Halloween-themed weekend in honor of the story, according to the Westchester View. And I didn't know there was actually a Sleepy Hollow.
Oh yeah, it's a region in sort of rural New York.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I'm going to add that to the places I go to. Like one of the very.
Yeah, if you're ever up in this neck of the woods, you and I will have to go together because I've never been either, and I've always wanted to.
Ethan Rain, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, number 2.
Okay. The movie. Oh, fuck the movie. Jeez.
The movie was so terrible.
Like, if ever you needed to doubt, the talents of Joss Whedon, just look at the difference between the movie version of Buffy and the show version of Buffy. Fuck.
In the Buffyverse, some monsters like to use Halloween as a day off. Planning an attack is too obvious, and everyone saying your costume needs work gets old faster than you think. Ethan Rain is an exception to this rule. This warlock may have been a recurring villain in hindsight, but his first appearance involved owning a pop-up costume shop. No, this is from the show.
Wait, okay. Oh, this is the guy who used to be a watcher that Giles hates, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Because the only time a pop-up Halloween store ever happened, I think it was a guy who used to be a watcher and then got kicked out because he enjoyed being evil too much, basically.
Turning
I
his.
thought at first I thought they were talking about the jock guy who gets turned into a vampire from the movie version.
Nope.
God, that movie was terrible.
and turning his victims into their attire. He probably does it just to make a be careful what you wish for joke and make money doing it. Seriously, you can't trust those pop-up shops.
Apparently not, because the guy from the Haunted Mask was also one of those types of guys. And so, speaking of R.L. Stein, so was the guy who sold the Evil Thing book from the Haunting Hour movie.
Kang and Kudos, The Simpsons, number 1.
Okay, I'll give you credit for Kang and Kodos. That's fair. Though if we're referencing iconic Halloween Simpsons characters, come on, you can't do better than Devil Flanders. I'm sorry. The one you suspect was absolute genius.
Mm-hmm. It's not Halloween without The Simpsons airing one of their annual Halloween specials. The octopus-like aliens, Kang and Kudos, made their debut in the first Treehouse of Horror and have appeared nearly every year since.
And to be fair to Kang and Kodos, they're supposed to be a reference to an even older property by virtue of referencing the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man, I believe, in their first appearance.
Right, and why does that sound familiar?
To Serve Man?
Yeah, like I know it's Twilight episode. I know that. I just can't remember the plot of that episode.
Okay, so plot is these aliens called Canamints descend from the sky and essentially fix all of humanity's problems with advanced technology and culture and shit. And they bring with them a book called To Serve Man as kind of a demonstration that they mean well.
Oh yeah,
And
it's really
a bunch
good
of
book.
a bunch of linguists spend the entire episode translating it, while the Canamints essentially do a bunch of things that are supposed to be good on their surface, and then it turns out that To Serve Man is a cookbook, and that they're essentially harvesting humans to eat, and
Pretty much.
all of the technology they gave us and everything was meant to put up a positive facade because they know humans are better fighters than they are, and B, to essentially pacify livestock in the way that you would. So yeah.
I don't know, like basically, like yeah, like Dalton said, they basically just turned the earth into livestock. And they
Yep.
would take a few of them, and they slowly migrated over. They were going to slowly migrate over the years. Basically, like a few of us go up there with them, where we're cooked and eaten, and then a few of them live on Earth, and then slowly they were just going to turn the planet, basically turn us into cows, really.
Yeah. And all of the advanced technology and stuff was essentially because they regard they essentially treat us the way we have recently started treating animals, in terms of it's better to have free range livestock because animal cruelty bad, etc.
Yeah.
Which I suppose means they're at least approachable in human terms,
I
but like,
never really got that. Honestly, I never really even got that impression. I just got the only impression I really got from them was that this was just a means of, like you said earlier, just a facade and the means of slowly, basically colonizing our planet and turning us eventually into, like, what the end goal I see is that eventually humans will just become little more than cows and shit.
right, and I see that, but a lot of the other stuff they did, like, ending wars and conflict and getting us all this advanced technology and culture and shit. Um, I maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but I see that kind of as their attempt to basically be sort of um more humane about their human
Well,
harvesting,
no, well, no, I
which is
mean, if we kill each other, then there's no meat for them.
yeah. I'm not saying it's not self-serving. I'm just saying I think there's probably a little bit of, let's treat our food sources well and not essentially put humans in battery farms.
No, I guess my thing is just that like the main reason for doing that is because one, it makes them look like saviors, which makes humans more likely to cling to them in spite of everything they do, and
Yeah,
two, they're
it's
more willing.
domestication,
Exactly,
basically.
exactly, and two, they will be more subservient to them so that they can eventually eat us without any sort of resistance or anything like that.
Although
Smooth
now I kind of want a sequel to that episode where there's like an argument of like some hippy dippy candidate being like, we shouldn't eat people anymore.
Exactly,
Like
like it gives me gas,
we,
homie.
we should become vegans
We should become
like some of the
vegans.
humans did.
Okay.
Also, the one thing about To Serve Men that bugs me is like, how do they know that? How do they know that humans are a thing? Like, because they obviously already have the To Serve Man book and already have all these recipes worked out. So like,
So maybe, yeah, I think that maybe they could have sent like probes or something like or different probes to the earth to check it out because they know the problems that mankind faces. So maybe
right?
they've just been observing and watching the earth for like who
Yeah.
knows how
My
many
my
years.
my, per, my personal headcanon is all the random like UFO stuff that we experience occasionally is just essentially them discovering humanity and then deciding, no, wait, don't conquer them. We want you to use them as a food source. Yeah.
I like that. That's kind of what I was thinking about too.
Like imagine if like Roswell was the first like um candidate discovery of humans.
Oh my god, that would be funny actually.
Right. Okay. So we have one last thing.
All
Might
right.
be the longest part, and so actually, correct. I gotta ask:
Yes.
have you seen the Joker movie?
I have not, but I'm fine with spoilers. I don't care about spoilers.
Okay. So yeah, I saw
How
it
did you like it?
Thursday. Um, yeah, so like I said, I saw it Thursday, and I didn't get out of the theater until 1.
Ooh.
I mean, there was hardly anyone there at that time, so I was fine. Hold on, I just had a picture for this.
All right.
There we go.
Ooh, nice. I like that picture. That's a good
Yeah.
poster.
I actually got a few posters. I don't know if did I bring them in?
I take it you really liked it.
It was
Really?
I was on the okay, look, again, and I said this before. I was on the fence about it when it was announced and stuff. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it's a Joker movie.
Yes, I totally feel the same fucking way.
See, I disagree. For one thing, this is my favorite movie of the year so far. But for another thing, I see this as what it is essentially as what if Martin Scorsese made a Killing Joke movie? That's
Dylan, you are aware Martin Scorsese did um,
produced. Yeah. Well, he was going to produce and then he dropped out at the last minute. Yes, I know.
no, not that. That he threw. I believe he threw some.
Oh, the annoying, stupid bullshit he said about comic book movies because apparently no one
Actually, I think it was
had
about.
a sense of logical consistency or irony. Yeah, I know.
I
But
think it was. I thought it was about Marvel movies,
Yeah, it's about Marvel movies, the MCU.
which I'm
Did-
fine with to an extent.
didn't he throw shade at DC as well?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought he did. But anyway, this essentially is what if like classic 70s Martin Scorsese made a Killing Joke movie as a movie. I do definitely see it as a Joker movie. It's definitely a comic book movie. It's just a very different, more experimental version of a comic book movie.
Yeah,
And
I'm fine with that. That's
Yeah.
fine. It's just again, it's hard for me to see. I could see Joker being a standalone movie. It's just I think you still have to have that connection with Batman.
and the Thomas Wayne references and the actual scene with young Bruce Wayne weren't enough.
I feel like you could probably give them different names and it would still be the same thing.
Yeah. Look, I liked all the performances. They were really great. And there's well, I will have to bring up the thing before, but it's a really well made movie. I like it a lot, and it's just
You're having a hard time fitting it into the Joker box.
yeah.
And like I said, the main reason I'm not is because I have read Killing Joke, and this very much is in the vein of my one bad day meme. So yeah, I'm totally fine with this as it is an alternate version of the Joker's backstory, but it is I think it's perfectly fine as a Joker backstory. It makes perfect sense to me. There were plenty of references to Killing Joke and other Joker origins for me. They tied in the Batman universe well enough. I was fine with it, and I really hate some critics who are saying, "Sure, it's really good, but it's only really good because it's not really a comic book movie." Like, this is the thing, and that's
stupid.
partly why I was kind of
Wait, what's up?
defensive. A bunch of critics,
Wait, no,
even the ones.
hold on. Wait, Brainstormer said something. What's up, Brainstormer?
When I said that's stupid, like what critics said, that's stupid. I do think it is a comic book movie because it has that kind of style and tone to it.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Again, it's just overall. It's I can't convey how this. It's hard for me to say what I'm trying to think. What I'm thinking.
It's difficult for you to articulate it, basically, right?
Yeah.
There are things about it that I didn't like, namely the Tyler Durden or Beautiful Mind sort of subplot, where he meets a girl who becomes his girlfriend, and then it turns out that his relationship with this girl was a fabrication of his own psychosis, and when he actually goes to see the girl, she doesn't know who he is, and yada yada yada.
I could say that makes sense with the character of Arthur Fleck.
It's not that it doesn't make sense. I'm just really sick of crazy in movies just being presented as he hallucinates some things. Like that gimmick was old when Fight Club did it for me. So I'm sick of seeing that portrayal of like insanity or mental illness or what have you.
Okay, I will.
Because in my opinion, most forms of psychosis don't make you fabricate entire scenarios. What they do is they change how you interpret existing data.
Couldn't you argue that those are sort of the same things, though? Like, granted, it was done to a more extreme. Granted, it was done to a more extreme degree, but I think you could argue that that your interpretation of events are wildly different than what actually happened. It's just more shown in more of an elaborate, over the top way, but I think at the core of it, it's still basically the same concept.
They can be, but my problem is there was enough crazy in the Joker as a character without needing to make him straight up schizophrenic. Even by like schizophrenia rules, the Hollywood definition of schizophrenia, where like you can imagine entire scenarios, is just kind of laughable.
Uh,
Go ahead, Brainstormer.
well, I was going to bring up that there's a fan theory relating to the ending of the movie, where it's the Joker in um.
Arkham, or what will eventually become Arkham.
Well, no, it is Arkham. It's just a state hospital at the moment.
Yeah, it's not Arkham Asylum yet, is what I
I
meant.
mean, I would argue that it's not really the joke. Like, I would argue that it's not really the Joker. It's like it's an original. It's their original version of what we consider to be the art of what we consider to be the Joker. So, like,
But there's a. I'm sorry to corrupt,
but
well, okay, so like I said, there was like this fan theory that was popping up that I saw, where essentially the whole movie was Joker's kind of inside joke to himself and Batman, that the whole movie itself was essentially Joker's way of, because they have the death of the Waynes towards the end of the movie of Joker, but it's not by some random gunman. It's by one of the followers of Joker.
Yeah. See, basically, in the process of standing up to the corrupt Gotham Society, which was handled really, really expertly well. Basically, the Joker ends up inspiring a clown version of Antifa, basically.
yeah, pretty much.
And one of those clown Antifa members, um, which side note, I can't wait for 4chan to get a hold of this movie because if there were Cloud World memes before, this is basically like Cloud World made Flash.
Especially since Joker says society. So
Yeah, we're living in a society basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, George Costanza said it first.
we live in a society. A society.
Yeah.
We're living in a society. We
But
should be
also,
acting in
they
a
also
civilized way. Yeah.
yeah, they also stick to the roots that okay. So apparently, Arthur Fleck, who's it's not his actual real name. He's an adopted child who was abandoned. So it does kind of keep in the roots of um, he doesn't exactly have a real origin.
Yeah. And they also play around a lot with the if I'm going to have a past, I would prefer it to be multiple choice thing because they keep things kind of ambiguous as to what does and doesn't, what is and isn't sort of the boundaries of reality.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they went a little overboard in terms of the fabricated girlfriend subplot.
Mm-hmm. Though it does add a greater tragedy to that character, I would say.
Yeah, because she doesn't recognize him, and then he kills her, and it's a thing.
Wait, does he kill her?
That's how I interpreted that scene because he leaves the room and it's never mentioned again, and
Huh. Well, I will say one of the most favorite things I like about the Joker movie is the music, like the OST, the original soundtrack.
yeah. That being said, there is one scene that I really feel they could have just used the regular score for. They use a song for, and you know the scene I mean, the one where he's dancing down the stairs, having like fully realized himself.
Yeah.
They switch out the incredibly haunting like orchestral music for like a really poppy like triumph song, and it doesn't
Right.
work.
Actually, speaking of music, I have a little soundbite of the main theme. Well, I believe it's the main theme, which is "Call Me Joker." I will play a little bit of it. also posted it on. Well, I posted it into the comments
Okay.
because I could not post. Yeah, there it is.
But yeah, like I said, I think this might be my favorite movie of the year so far.
Well, to be fair, there haven't been a lot of good movies this year.
No, there have not. This year has been really, really dry movie-wise. And given how many big budget movies came out, that's kind of disappointing. But yeah, this movie well and truly kicked Glass out of the #1 spot, and if Joaquin Phoenix doesn't at least get nominated for an Oscar, I might burn cities down. Because
If
goddamn it,
Joaquin doesn't get an Oscar, we riot.
Just like
Yeah.
the Joker movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get the fucking clown makeup, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're living in a society.
I will say though that I also don't think the movie's as good because I did not get emotional. I did not even build up tears at any moment. And that's kind of how I usually judge if a movie's really good or not.
Whether it can make you feel genuine emotions and cry and whatnot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
I felt things, which is hard to do, so I'm giving it some credit there. I felt like the Joker was, aside from all the purposefully dramatic stuff, he was extremely relatable.
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I think that too. It's just again, like I didn't have any.
You didn't have that final gut punch of, oh God, now I'm crying.
Well, near crying. I don't ever cry during movies.
Okay, I feel as though that's phrased as a challenge, and I'm going to have to try and find movies that will make you genuinely cry.
Well, no, it's just that's how I judge something. If it makes me near the point where I am going to cry.
If I feel human, then it has succeeded.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, I'm not.
There were times that I got close, but of course I don't really get emotional in that way, so I never even come close to crying usually. The only movie in recent memory that managed to get me there was Her, and that was just because I had gotten so black-pilled about the nature of movies in general, but seeing a really great movie was just enough to make me cry tears of joy.
Holy shit! If movies have black pilled you, that's horrifying. Holy shit!
Don't. I'm not.
No,
Actually,
like I was black-pilled about movies, like in general, because when I watched Her, there were like no good movies, and then I watched Her, and it was like this is a good movie.
You were gonna say something, Brian Stormer?
well, I was going to ask Dalton if he noticed an Easter egg, a specific Easter egg in the movie. The short man in the movie. Did you know? I'm not sure if you recognize the reference of that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So that guy, at least the way I interpreted it, anyway, was I think he was supposed to be kind of a reference to one of the Joker's Silver Age sidekicks that before even Harley, Gaggy, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an extremely well placed reference, and the thing is, the Joker isn't done cooking at the end of the Joker movie. Like at the end of the Joker movie, we don't see a fully realized Joker. We see the man who is about to become the fully realized Joker. So he doesn't have like the warehouses full of clown props, and he doesn't have the henchmen yet. But we see sort of the beginnings of how he gets there, and that's where the movie ends.
Right. But yeah, overall, I like the movie. There were problems I had with it. But that was just more. Those were problems on myself, mostly. my own personal problems of it.
Yeah, like I said, my only major problem with it was they pushed the mental illness thing into Tyler Durden or Beautiful Mind territory, and I am so fucking done with that subplot. So
Right.
that entire subplot could have been avoided. Like there are other ways to show that he doesn't fully have a grip on reality than straight up fabricating an entire relationship. It was just, but like I said, it was done in Fight Club. It was fine in Fight Club. It kind of ruined the movie of Fight Club, but never mind. It can be stopped. It can stop being done now. It's kind of how I feel about time travel. Like it worked in Back to the Future. It worked in some other movies. Can we move away from using time travel as a crutch now?
Well, right, and again, the original score, which the name of the composer is a very weird name.
Because she's very foreign and it's very probably insulting for us to try and
Yeah,
pronounce it.
I don't want to and don't want to try to pronounce it because I know I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah, but
also,
if ever you see this, madam, you did an amazing job, and you also deserve an Oscar for best music.
right, and also she's a female composer on a comic book movie, I believe. And Captain Marvel had done a big post thing, a big what's the word?
Hoopla.
Yeah, over a female composer. Where the thing is that the original score sucked. All hell.
Yeah. Whereas this one is also female and I believe a woman of color and
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Well, she's a non-Western woman and she's composing for a comic book movie and she managed to make an Oscar-worthy thing. So
Right. Like I said, the main theme, I believe it's the main theme, Call Me Joker, is hauntingly beautiful and just has this air of just descent.
yeah. I haven't heard music this good since Shape of Water, and Shape of Water won that Oscar, so I want Joker to win this Oscar.
Yeah.
And if you don't, dear the Academy, if you don't give Joker the Oscar because of some woo ideological reasons instead of any meritocratic ones, you can go fuck yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, a movie like, this is kind of a bit of a conspiracy theory of mine. I bet you if the Joker were a woman, the critics would love it.
In a fucking heartbeat. Because it would have been a commentary on patriarchy then.
Exactly. If it were a movie about a woman who's breaking down the patriarchy, yeah, they'd love it.
Like, okay, if this had been a Harleen movie based on Harley instead of Joker, instant Oscar buzz immediately.
We're not talking about Birds of Prey, not for this month, folks. I really don't want to.
Yeah, no, fuck Birds of Prey. I hope Birds of Prey makes like 200 million at the box office, and I hope Joker makes like 1.4 billion and becomes Warner Brothers' highest grossing movie for a little while.
Right. For the record,
would be justified.
For the record, I only feel bad for one actor in Birds of Prey movie, and that's Ewan McGregor.
But then again, he was in the Star Wars prequel, so how much shame does he honestly have left?
He was the best part of those movies.
Except for Master Yoda. Master Yoda was amazing, and I'm glad they got Frank Oz back to voice him.
But either way, that's not done talking about that. Should we? I don't know. Should we cover the whole stupid thing about the white guy thing?
Okay. Let's
crazy lady.
Let's just get into fucking the whole controversy in the largest conceivable air quotes I can muster
Non-trivial.
Yeah, no, fuck you, you ignorant feminist ideologue critics. You should be addressing a movie on its own merits, not on its cultural and political context. And yes, this movie does explain the logic behind people who do bad things, but given that your approach to these things is just act as though their own nature is the problem and act as though there is absolutely no method to their madness in any way whatsoever, you can fuck yourself. Everyone, even severely crazy people, have a logic to what they do. Just because it's not an understandable or valid logic doesn't mean it's not a logic.
I think
And
go ahead.
and as far as white incels thing, maybe instead of shaming people for not getting laid, which is hypocritical among feminists because we're not supposed to virgin shame, if I remember correctly. That was the feminist orthodoxy like 5 minutes ago. Given that that's a thing, and given that it's feminist hypocrisy anyway, maybe we should regard people with compassion and sympathy as opposed to treating their own natures as though it's the problem by demonizing the quality of masculinity itself.
Their biggest issue, their biggest issue with the film is because it explains behavior in a way that they feel like doesn't fully condemn or villainize the white male who's the subject of the
Right,
study.
and further to that, I think two of their other big problems with it is because of the way it depicts society. It kind of puts the feet of, or it kind of puts the blame at the feet of what we can establish as feminist orthodoxy. So not only does it not demonize white males, but it also kind of points the finger at the dominant culture. And who is responsible for the moral zeitgeist of the dominant culture? That would be feminists. So there's that. And of course, there's also the notion of, in the SJW mindset, logic is only a tool, and giving someone sympathy is essentially equivalent to validating them in their minds. And just a note to those feminists: maybe if you treated people like they were valid regardless of demographic, people wouldn't be in the terribly quote unquote marginalized positions they were in the first place, and they would need to snap.
Right.
Maybe if we operated on the assumption that everyone has some validity, we could actually address the issues and not just blame the natures of things.
It's the nature of man.
Dun dun dun. But not woman, though. Woman is totally fine and exempt from all criticism.
Man is a vile beast.
You know what? I feel like, I don't know, a part of me wants to make a story, maybe probably a comic or something, where it's essentially the story of Joker, like the movie, but from a female perspective.
So like a
Do
lady
it, and I
Joker.
bet you'll get a dozen feminist accolades.
No, but it would basically be the same kind of story, essentially.
Right, I know that's what I'm saying. I swear to God, if this was instead a story about how patriarchy was oppressive instead of possibly feminist oriented society being oppressive to straight white male and not demonizing masculinity, it would be up for Oscars like tomorrow. But unfortunately, because it actually tries to be unbiased in terms of who can feel victimized and who can feel oppressed and who can feel marginalized and so forth, infinitely forbidden, because giving sympathy to incel males validates incel males, and that means that feminists lose power in the cultural narrative. And since all of society is just a social construct, that means my cultural narrative is all that exists, and that's the only way that anyone can validate anything. It's not as though objective logic exists, or factors that are beyond human control exist, or whatever. Derp.
Well, I'm also the guy who thought of the idea of having a succubus character wear essentially a hijab, you know,
Bit,
as a way for the character to find someone who likes them for them and not because of the looks of a succubus.
which, by the way, is still an amazing concept.
That was I think that wasn't that somewhat the plot in like the Witcher, the latest Witcher game, where there was some dude who liked being with this like succubus because he enjoyed her. He enjoyed being with her or something like that. I think that was the plot of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Brainstormer had this idea about a succubus character who um essentially covered herself to avoid being alluring so that she could tell whether people liked her for her or whether they liked her because they are metaphysically obliged to because of a succubus.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't remember what you said, Dolan. Like, if I'd actually done a story like that, or wrote something like that, uh, the feminists would be all on me about it, up in arms. I think.
It's an interesting concept.
It's an interesting concept and it confuses their whole paradigm. The sex negative people will be mad at you um because you validated the burqa instead of essentially laying the foot laying the blame at the foot of everyone who isn't
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm
the woman.
validating it. I would more say I'm using it as a story device, and the fact that the character chooses to wear it.
No, but I'm talking about in the feminist mind. Everything with them is authority and validation. So they would see it this way. And then the sex positive people would of course be mad at you for uh forcing the succubus into the burqa and denying her innate quote unquote power.
You can't please everyone, so I just say fuck off. Either enjoy it or not. I don't care.
I like that
Yeah,
attitude. That's also the best. That's also one of the best attitudes to have nowadays. People love a rebel,
that
and
that
people love
that,
someone
that is
who.
that is the correct response. By the way, corrupt. We haven't talked about this in any of the times you've been on. Have you been following all the things that Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips said in the lead up to the Joker movie
Oh
in
yeah,
response to the
yeah,
hysteria?
that he left comedy because of like this oppressive PC like environment. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Joaquin was asked like about what do you think of the
So,
cultural impact of this, and he was just like, "Why would you?" And then he
so,
walked out.
so, what do
And
you so what do
yeah,
you think about the fact that your movie's gonna inspire incels to kill people, huh?
why would you? And then immediately just stormed out of the building, and only uh comes back in after he's whined to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers has given these journos an earful for it. But then when he came back in, or when he was asked about this a second time, he literally just said, "I don't think it's the responsibility of art to dictate morality," and that was like a mic drop moment. And I was
Ooh, I
just
love
like,
it.
I love this man so much right now. Just like,
I love
yes,
that actually.
speaks truth to power. And then, of course, Todd Phillips said his thing about woke culture, and the SJWs in the media lost their fucking mind. It was hilarious.
The thing that I think makes them the angriest about this movie is that they're incredibly powerless to do anything against it. There was no mass shooting, which they're praying for, and the movie is successful, which they hate. So yeah, they're just kind of fucked. So
Yeah, the only thing they can do is essentially take any Oscar chances of it away, and that will suck. But if this movie is as successful as I'm expecting it to be, it won't matter. Because by rights, this deserves to be the highest grossing DC movie. I'm sorry to Aquaman and to The Dark Knight, but in my opinion, no disrespect whatsoever to Heath Ledger, may he rest in peace, and he gave his soul for that performance and everything. But I think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is better than Heath Ledger's Joker by the smallest margin, but I think it is.
Okay. I feel like both are really good performances for different reasons, and
So,
Oh yeah, they both work excellently in the movies they are in. I'm just saying the one weakness that Heath has is he was only in the movie for 45 minutes out of like a 3 hour runtime. Um, and I know it's almost exactly 45 minutes because I actually found someone who did a compilation of every scene the Joker's in The Dark Knight in the lead up to this.
I mean, I got nothing really else to say. If anyone else has anything to add before, I guess we kind of sign off.
mm,
Well, actually, we do have your
yeah,
comic recommendations, so
yeah, we've been on for like 3 hours, I think, right?
yeah.
Oh,
So
God, my stomach is killing me.
Which is actually kind of short for us, honestly.
Mm.
yeah, didn't really have a lot to cover. So, but yeah, comic recommendations. I unfortunately did not read anything because I was busy with a lot of other things. So, anyone got anything to recommend for October or just some overall?
I'll probably have to do it next Sunday. My stomach is in so much pain. It is hard for me to fucking focus right now.
Ah, okay,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Well, before you go, Corrupt, I would like to say this.
Yes.
Send in the cloud.
Oh my god, I love that. I'm
I
sticking
I
around. I'm sticking around until you guys end the show. So
all right.
it's my head.
But that being said, I will say, in addition to our Joker talk, I do love that Jimmy Durante's smile and Frank Sinatra's "Send in the Clowns" are now permanently linked to the Joker because that is just the most perfect thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the topic of comic recommendations, given our topics tonight, first I want to recommend everyone read Alan Moore's The Killing Joke if you have not yet, preferably before you see the Joker movie. Also, I know it's not a comic, but because it's relevant to uh, kind of fully enjoying the Joker movie, watch the movies Taxi Driver and King of Comedy before seeing Joker, preferably. And in terms of other things we've talked about tonight, um, yes, read Day of Judgment. Yes, read Hellblazer, Dangerous Habits. They're both amazing. And yes, you should definitely be at least well read in terms of Tales from the Crypt. It's an excellent series. You can get them in omnibus form, and there's also a few other horror anthologies that are kind of worth mentioning. The original House of Mystery story lines are very horror based. They're excellent. Also, there is a horror anthology series called Creepy, which is excellent. I got volume one of it for my birthday this last year, so if you're interested in horror comics, definitely look at those. And if you're looking for just Halloween oriented comics, I know the series is a little bit iffy, the Netflix series, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but the comic it's based on is pretty damn good. And there are actually Trick or Treat anthology comics for anyone that's interested in that. And if, like me, Trick or Treat is one of your favorite Halloween movies, then you should be checking those out like yesterday.
Okay, I think Corrupt's about ready to pass out from pain or something.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so
I don't know. I don't even know what to be honest with you. I don't know what to take for this. For stomach pain, I don't really know what to take. I mean, Tums or something, but that's for like gas. So I don't know.
well, I don't know. I could offer something, but I don't know if it would work for you. It's kind of worked for me sometimes.
What is it?
Punch yourself really hard in the stomach.
You have a very self-destructive and counterintuitive way of dealing with things, Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Like
I feel-
I honestly worry a little bit about you abusing yourself sometimes.
I feel like my Avatar Express is like has the perfect expression for that comment. Just
Well, no, it's just it could be like some type of air, like gas bubble or something, and like in your
that's possible.
yeah. I'd say try it, but if you don't want to, that's fine. It's
I
just
mean, I'll try anything to make this to make this shit stop. Yeah, I'll try it. Fuck it, I don't care.
Okay, but at any rate,
Um,
I think
with that,
that's a good
folks,
place to leave
yeah.
it.
With that,
So
folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avidase, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Wait, give us a sign. Give us a proper sign off there, Dolt.
shalom. Now fuck off.
Okay.